Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the August 17th meeting of the San Luis Coastal Unified School District Board of Trustees. At this time, we'd like to ask those in attendance to please keep your videos off and your audio muted unless you're presenting information or speaking in public comment. We're offering translation services for our Spanish-speaking attendees. To access translation, please click on the globe at the bottom of your screen and then language. At this time, we'd like to ask if anyone who needs translation would please click on the participants icon at the bottom of your screen and raise your hand.
Buenas noches y bienvenidos a esta junta del Consejo de Educación. Si necesitan servicios de interpretación, los vamos a estar ofreciendo, pero necesitamos que levanten la mano para saber que tenemos audiencia. Si es que sí necesitan activarlos, en la parte inferior de la pantalla van a ver un globo terráqueo. Lo pueden seleccionar y pueden escoger español y nos van a estar escuchando simultáneamente.
Good. Okay. Thank you very much. So let's look at item number 3.02, consensus on the order of business. Do we have a consensus on the order of business? Okay, everybody looks good on that. Let's go to item number 4.01, our student representatives to the board. We have 2 student representatives to the board tonight. We'll start with Nicholas Gray from Morro Bay High School. Nicholas, are you there? Let me see Nicholas there, Mandy. Okay.
Hello, can you hear me?
We sure can. Thanks, Nick.
Perfect. Awesome. Hi, everyone. My name's Nick Gray. I'm going to be the ASB President at Morro Bay this year. We have a lot that we are excited to share. Tomorrow is our new student orientation. I was at the high school about an hour ago and we have all the posters set up. We have everything in place and it's going to be really good. It's going to be a positive first start to the year. And then on Thursday is our first day of school. We're not doing instruction though. Instead, we're going to be doing introductions, getting to know, and that's going to be Friday as well. So Monday is actually going to be our first day of instruction. And from there, we're just looking to have a really positive year. I've met a couple of the new staff and they seem amazing. Our staff is really good. Mr. Scaldi is going to be great. And overall, I think we're just really excited to have like a positive year and kind of a new start. So I'm really excited.
Thank you very much, Nick. Anything else you want to add for us?
I don't believe so. We have, I believe our first football game is the first Friday back. Other than that, I think I'm all good.
Okay. And first of all, I really want to welcome you and congratulations on being student body president at Morro Bay High School. One thing you should know is that you're always welcome to stay at the meeting as long as you want and participate in the discussions that the board has. So if there's a topic or an item that you're particularly interested in, of course, you're welcome to participate in that discussion. I would just recognize you as if you or any other board member. You can't vote on the items, but certainly we want to hear from you. So know that. The other thing we recognize is that a lot of times we know that you're really going to be busy and you've got homework and stuff like that. So it's when you're done with your presentation, if you feel like you'd like to leave the meeting, we're happy to have you do that. We're just happy that you're here and happy that you're representing Morro Bay High. So thanks, Nick. Appreciate it.
Oh, thank you.
All right. So let's move on to San Luis Obispo High School, Noah Claussen. Noah, are you there?
Yeah. Hey, everybody. I'm Noah Claussen. I'm going to be the ASB president at SLO High this year. And we're also coming back on Thursday. And I know everyone on our campus is super excited to have all the students back. We had our new student orientation last week, where we welcomed all the freshmen and all the other new students. We had a few foreign exchange students and transfers from other schools. We have our first rally next Friday. It's going to be an outdoor rally, and we're super pumped for that. Our fall sports are up and running. Our band has been practicing, and we're really excited to get back in the swing of things over at SLO High.
Great. And did you hear what I said to Nick about being able to participate in the meetings?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, so just know that the same invitation applies to you as well. If there are if there are topics of discussion that you really feel are important, and we absolutely welcome your comments. So feel free to participate. And of course, like I said, I also realize that you're going to be really busy. You're a senior, you're probably working really hard. So if after you give your presentation, you'd like to leave, that's okay too, but know that you're welcome to stay and participate, okay?
Awesome, thank you very much.
Great, thank you very much. Really appreciate your time. All right, let's move on to item 5.5.01. I'm gonna have to remember to do this. The board received 3 pieces of correspondence. One is from OD Ariel regarding Pacheco School Garden. Another was from the Central Coast Psychological Association regarding mental health during COVID. And the final one was from Tim Romano regarding masks and local control. And the board also yesterday received a piece of correspondence from a number of parents from Cayucas Elementary School District. Unfortunately, that correspondence arrived too late for us to be able to include it in this week's agenda. However, it will be included in the next agenda that we have. So thank you very much for that. At this point, what we're gonna do is we're going to begin with in-person public comment. And I've got some things I'm gonna read here, of course. But we'll begin with in-person public comment. Then we'll go to the Zoom public comment. And then finally, we'll do the written public comment that we've received. Hopefully, if you're here to address the board, you have filled out an in-person speaker form, and you can give that to Mrs. Dawson over there. And of course, you'll get your 3 minutes. So at this point in the agenda, the board welcomes comments on matters of district interest. The board will listen but cannot engage in discussion or take action on items not listed on the agenda. Generally, this section of the agenda is for individuals or a representative of a group to address the board on issues not listed on the agenda. Speakers who wish to discuss items on the agenda are requested to wait until that item comes before the board. However, comments may be given on agenda items at this time if it's not possible for a speaker to stay until the agenda item is heard by the board. If you submit written comments on a topic, you will not be allowed to also speak on that topic. Comments or correspondence submitted anonymously will not be accepted. If you'd like to speak in person, please complete a public comment request form and submit it to Mrs. Dawson. In-person public comments will be read first. Actually heard from first. If you wish to speak via Zoom, click on the participants icon at the bottom of your screen and select raise your hand. When your name is called, you may restart your video if you wish and unmute your audio. If you need assistance with your video, please let us know and we'll attempt to fix it. If you have a problem with your audio, please click on the thumbs down icon and we'll attempt to assist you. Written public comments submitted prior to the board meeting will be read by Dr. Eisendrath Rogers following the verbal public comment, actually following the Zoom public comment. Yes, same thing. All public comments will be limited to 3 minutes, a limit of approximately 450 words in written comment. You may not cede any remaining time to another speaker. Any portion of your comment extending past the 450 word limit may not be read aloud due to the time restrictions. All written comments that are not read into the record will be made part of the meeting minutes, provided that such comments are received prior to the end of the meeting. Please be aware that written public comments, including your name, may become public information. And so that said, I think we have a couple of people who did wish to address the board, and they let us know earlier about that. Did we not, Mrs. Dawson? Yes, we do. So I'm going to ask if Erika Torres is here. Okay. And she may be on
Attendance
Zoom.
on Zoom.
Okay, and then we'll, if that's the case, we'll come back to her after we hear the
Yeah,
people.
I
in
am
public.
here. I don't have a video.
Okay, Erika, you know what? I'm going to go to the people that are here first, and then I'll come back to you.
Okay, no
Okay.
problem.
And then is Craig Owens in the room, or is he also Zoom? Okay, let's begin with Craig Owens then, please. And Craig, you have 3 minutes.
Hello, my name is Craig Owens. I wish to express to the other school districts in SLO County that the Let Them Breathe resolution passed by Cayucas Elementary School Board during the August 4th special board meeting was done so by the board without an understanding of if a majority of parents and other stakeholders supported the resolution. Based on the attendance and public comments made at the most recent school board meeting on 8/11/21, the Let Them Breathe resolution does not represent stakeholders' beliefs and wishes at Cayucas School. There's over 40 parents that have signed a letter that Erika Torres will read that letter. San Luis Obispo County kids are now testing positive for COVID-19 at much higher rates than adults, according to local public health department data analyzed by the Tribune. Cases involving residents age 17 and under more than doubled from 1,074 to 2,212 total, according to the county public health data. 11 kids ages 0 to 17 have been hospitalized in San Luis Obispo. 11. What if that were one of your children in the hospital from COVID? While covering one's face is not difficult, our mask opponent friends are driven by another concern. They don't want government dictating their behavior. Put simply, the resistance is not about public health, it's about politics. One of every 545 Americans killed has been by COVID-19, and a substantial chunk of the population continues to assert their own individual liberties over the common good. At what point should individual rights yield to the public interest? If coronavirus kills 1 in 100, will that be enough to change some minds? Or 1 in 10? During a pandemic, there's only one choice when it comes to health. That's the right choice. The right choice is dictated by doctors and scientists keeping disease from doing harm, not our opinions. Opinions are the lowest form of knowledge. They have no accountability and no understanding. That's Plato, not me. That's the Greek philosopher said that. Dr. Bravo, our children's pediatrician here in San Luis Obispo, says, we don't know for sure how everyone will react to this illness. And just like all human illnesses, some people get things mildly, some people get things severely. Some people have complications of what most people would consider very mild illnesses. So the human spectrum of responses is very unpredictable. Bravo said he would never advise parents to just take a chance simply because kids are likely to experience severe symptoms of COVID-19. This is why wearing masks in school is so important. It's not my random opinion based on intuition. This is a medical doctor's opinion who treats our children here in town based on facts and education and science. It's interesting, our anti-mask friends don't believe the science or medicine, but will let science and doctors have complete freedom and control to try anything to heal them when they're in the hospital facing grave illness and death. The evidence is piling up in hospital admissions around the country. I don't know how much time I have.
I'm going to cut you off right now.
So the last thing I'm going to say is,
Please,
let's,
I'm sorry.
all
I'm
politics,
sorry,
let's
sir,
put
your
it
comments are
aside,
done.
err on the
Please shut off
side of
microphone.
caution,
Please shut off the microphone.
and that's it.
Please
Thank
shut
you
off the
very
microphone.
much.
Thank you very
I
much.
appreciate it.
So I'm just going to remind the public that we allow 3 minutes. We will not exceed 3 minutes. If you do, I will ask the microphone to be shut off. Thank you very much. Let's see. Next, thank you, Mr. Owens. Okay, next is Jed Brewington. Mr. Brewington.
They can see them.
Yeah.
Hello, I'm Jed
Hey,
Brewington.
Jed, can I ask you a question before
Sure.
you start, before we start your time? Can you see the timer over there?
No.
Okay, could we move the timer so people can see it better, please?
We can see it now.
Does that work?
Works.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Brewington, your time will begin now.
Great. I'm Jed Brewington. I'm a teacher of the woodshop class right down the hill from you. And I wanted to take a moment to publicly thank the school board and Dr. Prater for all the work that has gone on in our program. San Luis Obispo High School is a very special place. And one of the things that makes it so special is our CTE programs. And the investment that you've made in our shops will make our high schools, if not the envy of every school program in this county, maybe even the state. It is a fantastic setup. And I'd also like to thank Mr. Pinkerton and Mr. Vaughn for all the work they've done, the hand-holding and guidance that they've given us throughout this process. And last but not least, whoever amongst you is responsible for hiring Steve Stewart, you can get a big pat on the back for that. Steve is the guy that where the rubber meets the road, Steve's that guy. He's the one making sure that things get done, whether it's moving things out or moving things in and getting them set up, helping us find whatever we need. Steve's the guy to do that. So thank you for that. And we really do appreciate what you've done for us.
Thank you very much, Mr. Brewington. And I'm going to get away from commenting. I just want to say I've been in Mr. Brewington's classroom, and it and the other CTE classrooms are just beautiful down there. Just, you know, I'm really amazed by the work that's done and the work that's done that will allow you as a teacher to really like take it up a notch when you're teaching kids. So thanks. And thanks to all the teachers that at San Luis Obispo High School, Morro Bay High School, and throughout the district that have been working their tails off. So thanks. Next is Susan Madrid. Susan?
Hello, my name is Susan Madrid.
Hold on just a second. Please start the timer. Thank you. Go ahead, Ms. Madrid.
Hi, my name is Susan Madrid. This is the first board meeting I've ever attended. I'm here just to share my heart. I'm really excited hearing the excitement our children have at returning to in-person learning. I'm sad because the thought of our children being masked while at school concerns me. There's two points of view that I have about this. One is that my children are grown. They did attend San Luis School District and had a good experience. One of my daughters had a severe speech impediment and attended a program called KEEP, which was wonderful. And it was through that I learned how important it was for children to be able to see the mouth of people speaking. So my concern is that would be impacted. The second one, of course, is our English learners. My children attended an English learning school. And again, I think that would impact our children for socializing and interacting with their peers when their faces would be covered. Also, I think it's over 50% of communication is nonverbal. So that's also a concern. So I guess for me, I'd like to say that I definitely want our kids to be safe. And I believe, and I hope we can find a way that they can do that without having to wear a mask at school. I think for me that I believe the potential harm in socializing our children by wearing masks exceeds the benefits. I believe these could be long-term benefits. How much time do I have?
Have 45 seconds.
Oh, thank you. So I don't know if you guys have ever adopted a puppy, but the first thing the vet says is to socialize your puppy. And that's what I'm concerned with. If you've ever adopted a puppy, not a puppy, but it's an adult dog that hasn't been properly socialized, you can protect it from a lot of things, but having it develop socializing skills sometimes can't be changed. And so I just want to share that I hope we find a way that we can have our kids be free to communicate and be unmasked. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Nicole Dorfman. Mrs. Dorfman. Go ahead.
Thank you. I have been thinking a lot about what mask mandates teach our children. The spoken message is a positive one, that we're taking care of each other, we're all in this together, we're protecting each other. But the unspoken message is quite dark. It's teaching children to fear themselves and others, to see their classmates and teachers as dirty, infectious, dangerous, murderous even. This silent message breeds anxiety and depression, isolation, insecurity. I heard a radio ad the other day that I thought was a spoof. It was warning kids how dangerous it is to play with friends and advising them to stay home playing video games instead. But at the end, it was clear it was no joke and was actually a public service announcement from the CDC. Hearing that message, one would imagine that hospitalization and death are just a play date away. But in reality, no one under 18 has died from COVID in SLO County, and only 11 have been hospitalized, which is 0.02% of that demographic. This is the data from our own public health department. Any other message is conjecture. Along with creating a culture of fear, mask mandates pathologize healthy children and are leading to a system of exclusion and discrimination for those unable or unwilling to wear a covering over their mouth and nose for up to 6 hours a day. There is no in-school accommodation for children who cannot tolerate a restriction of their breathing due to physical, emotional, or psychological issues. There is no place for them in this school district. The message you are sending is that those children are expendable. This is the same message for English language learners and those with hearing and speech impediments and other disabilities who are forced to accept subpar learning environments. Despite the fact that children are only mildly affected by this illness, they are bearing the brunt of the harm from societal restrictions. In restaurants, we wear masks until seated, but can then take them off at the table. Why can't children do this at their desks? Why not ask permission to do this? Why not use a sliver of the 12 million in COVID funds this district received to create outdoor classrooms for students who are harmed by state mandates and need options? I hope you will give these thoughts and questions consideration in the weeks and months to come, and perhaps you will find creative solutions to these issues that are inclusive and respect the diversity of the whole school community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Dorfman. Next is Lisa Vaughn.
Hi, my name is Lisa Vaughn, and I second many of the points that Kim and Susan made here this evening. I'm a parent of a toddler, and I have her in a preschool where she's able to be outside most of the day and run around with her little friends. And I recently, because of financial issues, had to take her out. So now she's going, just very part-time to preschool. So I thought, oh, I'll enroll her into a dance class here in San Luis Obispo. And I got there, and half of it was outside, which I thought was great. Everyone can breathe the fresh air and be in the sunshine. But they had these toddlers in masks, and they were ages 3 to 5. And I saw one little girl, her mask was completely wet. And I thought, and they have, the kids running in circles, they're doing ballet, they're tapping in this classes for an hour. And I thought, why do they have to, I just like it should be the choice of the parent, basically, to whether or not to put their kids in a mask, especially for in an outdoor setting, or like the others mentioned, to try to provide more outdoor, since we are, in California, we have a climate where we can have outdoor eateries and things like that. So I just want to say it should be more of like the parents' choice, whether or not to put their kids in a mask, and to determine that for their own child, and not have it be a mandate, because there are a lot of parents who cannot put their kids on Zoom. Like my sister, they can't be in Zoom classrooms every week because she has to work. So also, we don't want to have her in a mask all day long where she can't really be social with her friends the way she'd like to, or things like that. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Next is Lauren Williams.
Hi, before you start my time, there's some people hiding behind, I can't see the screens or with the screens. Are there members behind them? Can we move them so we
No,
can
we're not,
actually?
excuse me, we're not going to move anybody. Please begin your time right now.
Okay, I can't see you. My name is Lauren Williams. I'm a SLO resident, mother of 3 children, 1 son starting SLO high this year. My background is in environmental health and safety. I'm not going to try to convince you that long-term mask wearing for developing brains and lungs are dangerous, because there are countless studies out there that show that exact thing to be true. And look, I'm not against you. We all have the same goal, to have our children receive their American right to a public education. And we all know that in person is the best route. Now, what I'd like to highlight is the right you think you have to mandate our children and our teachers to wear an emergency use authorization only FDA medical device, which is the mask, the PCR test, and the vaccines. We could debate science all day long. My doctor said this, your doctor said that. This is the Constitution of America. There's no statutory law that requires you, your employees, your customers, which are your students, to wear a mask, get their temperature taken, or stay 6 feet apart. There is no law that requires you to serve your customers or your students outside or reduce the number of people in your business, which is the public school. In fact, if you require your students to wear a mask or restrict their movement or entry, if they are not wearing a mask, you are at risk for violating several federal and California state laws. Any violation of the following laws will be reported to the appropriate authorities. As a personal responsibility for this establishment, the school district, you personally will be at risk for fines and imprisonment upon conviction of these crimes. The U.S. federal law, U.S. Constitution, First Amendment, right to assemble, right to freedom of speech, right to religious expression. Requiring someone to wear a mask as a condition to assemble in your place of public accommodation is an infringement on the right protected under the U.S. Constitution, the highest law of the land. U.S. Constitution, Fourth Amendment, right to privacy. Forcing a person to wear a mask without their consent is a violation of the Fourth Amendment. Further, gathering vital statistics such as taking one's temperature is a violation of person's right to privacy. Violation of this privacy will result in your actions being reported to the U.S. Department of Justice. U.S. Title 52 Civil Rights Act 1964, unlawful to discriminate in place of public accommodations. If someone is unable or unwilling to wear a mask for one of those reasons, you may not prohibit them from entry, nor may you file a charge of trespassing because of their legal protected status. There are more pages to this. You can contact me.
Thank you, Mrs. Williams. Your time is up.
If you don't want to be sued.
Thank you, Mrs. Williams. Your time is up. Is there anybody else that wishes to address the board? Okay, seeing no one, we're going to go to our Zoom participants. Mrs. Dawson, do we have anybody? I think we have one person for sure, and that would be, yes, that would be Mrs. Torres.
Yeah,
so Mrs. Torres, are you there?
Yeah, I can unmute, but I don't have a video unless
That's
you're
fine.
allowing me to do
Hold
that.
on just a second. Ms. Torres, your 3 minutes will begin now.
Great, fantastic. Am I on video?
Yes, you are. We can't see you, but we can sure hear you. So let's stop the, just, there we go. Can we back up the,
Yeah, can we
there we
restart
go.
the
Let's do
timer?
that. Thank you. Go ahead.
Fantastic. Yeah, there's quite a bit I'd like to respond to regarding some of the previous speakers, but I am going to keep my remarks central to what I have prepared and focused on what I would like to address the board to today. So I do have some prepared remarks. My name is Erika Torres. I'm the parent of a Cayucos Elementary School student. I'm also a licensed marriage and family therapist working with kids in our community. What I want to address today is some things that have been happening at the Cayucos Elementary School Board. On August the 4th, the Cayucos Elementary School Board voted 3-2 to pass the Let Them Breathe resolution that was brought to the board by a single parent for consideration. This resolution was downloaded from the letthembreathe.net website, a group advocating for schools to ignore California Department of Public Health guidelines and for preventive health measures against COVID-19 to be ignored, such as masks, quarantines, and asymptomatic testing. I'm attending your school board meeting tonight to express that the passage of the Let Them Breathe resolution by the Cayucos Elementary School Board is not representative of the beliefs and wishes of the majority of parents and stakeholders at Cayucos Elementary School. Quite frankly, the passage of this resolution is an extreme embarrassment to our school and to our entire community. So far, already 40 Cayucos parents and stakeholders have signed their names onto the letter that I sent yesterday to each of the San Luis Obispo County School Board members and their superintendent in order to notify them of the Cayucos stakeholders' outrage that our school board passed this resolution. Of great concern to myself and these 40 parents and stakeholders is that the board did not allow for an in-depth discussion of the Let Them Breathe resolution to occur first in order to hear community feedback prior to voting on the resolution. The school board had no idea where the Cayucos Elementary School community and stakeholders stood on the issue. Instead, this Cayucos Elementary School Board voted and allowed for the voice of a small but very vocal group of anti-mask parents to dictate decisions that impact the health and safety of our students. We also fear that the passage of this resolution will open our school up to liability if the board actually implements the measures proposed due to the fact that they go against current California public health guidelines. At this time, the board is telling us that the passage of this resolution was only symbolic in nature and that the board does not in fact intend to act upon the resolution in any meaningful way. However, our board has already followed through with portions of the resolution and has notified other school districts, the California Department of Public Health, and the California Governor's Office, among others, that Cayucos Elementary School supports the Let Them Breathe resolution and all of the articles included in it. This is a humiliation to our school. We are extremely concerned and deeply disturbed that the passage of this resolution has aligned our school and our community with an agenda that opposes public health.
I'm sorry, Mrs. Torres, your time is up.
This
Thank you
is
very much.
unacceptable to us.
No,
Thank
you may not. I'm sorry, we limited it to 3 minutes. Thank you very much. So just a reminder, if you're watching us on Zoom, if you'd like to give us public comment, go to the participant link and click the raise your hand button. So Mrs. Dawson, is there anybody who we're seeing on Zoom who would like to address the board? Okay, hold on just a second now. So we have someone named Kimberly. Kimberly, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Okay, Kimberly, your 3 minutes begins now.
Okay, thank you. I hadn't initially even intended to attend this meeting, but after speaking to other concerned parents, I thought I ought to just listen. I am a parent of a child in the Los Osos Elementary School. He goes to Monarch Grove. He is in 2nd grade and he has special needs. He has sensory issues. He has various things going on. And I have to say, as a concerned parent, I've been shocked at how willing he's been to wear his mask, how often he wears it into stores, into other places, and even forgets to take it off. I have to remind him. So I think everyone attending here is attempting to try to be the best parent they can, and I understand that. But I think in terms of, for my concerns and the people I know, I feel like masks are a very simple thing. It's very simple to ask a child to wear a mask and for them to comply. They're looking to us to lead by example. So so far I have to say I'm very grateful to the San Luis Coastal School Board for enforcing mask wearing, because if this is a way to keep our kids safe, then I think it's a very simple way to do that. So that's all I wanted to say.
Great. Thank you very much, Kimberly. Next, we have Becky Fernandez. Mrs. Fernandez or Ms. Fernandez, if you're there.
Yes, hello. Can you
hold on just a second? There you go. Your 3 minutes begins now. Thank you very much, Ms. Fernandez.
Thank you. Thank you so much. First, I'm a parent of in school children, and I am concerned about about the kids returning to school without masks. We're seeing right now other schools who have started, particularly in Texas and Florida, and it was all over the news today. Multiple schools have closed. In one instance, there were hundreds of cases. And I don't think that's where we want to be, but I believe that to be the reality if children are to go to school without a mask. We have the benefits, living in a community, we have the benefits of a society. We have police and fire protection, we have roads, and we have public education. And we are benefiting from these amazing amenities we have here living in a community. And I think that it is prudent, it is kind to make a simple gesture of putting on a mask to protect others in our community. And I understand the concerns of wearing a mask, but as parents, we set the stage, we set the norm for our children, and we can communicate to them in an understanding and an empathetic way that this isn't this isn't just about us. This isn't just about what we want. It's not just my personal right. It is to the benefit of our entire community so that we all can stay safe. And I think that that's a message of love and kindness. And I would hope that we would make choices, all of us as parents, as community members, as leaders of our community, to do the kind thing, do what is what benefits everyone, and that's to wear a mask. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Mrs. Dawson, is there anyone else who would like to address the board via Zoom? Okay, I'm seeing no one. We're going to close Zoom. I'm sorry, there is one more I'm told. Can you let me know what that person's name is, please? Laura Slaughter. Laura, are you there?
Hi, I'm here. Okay,
Laura, hold on just a second. Are you ready? Your 3 minutes begins now.
Hi, good evening, board and everyone on this meeting. I am going to be very brief. I'm a mother of a Laguna Middle School student and a Pacheco student. I'm a nurse. I've been an ER nurse 14 years, not doing that now, but I'm a nurse educator, doing my nurse practitioner right now. My husband's an ER physician. The medical side of COVID is certainly significant in our world. And I just want to reflect, the reason why I'm chiming in, I appreciate what Kimberly said and Erika and Becky just now. I didn't plan to even listen to this meeting, I'm sorry, but I felt like things are going in the right direction, and mostly I just want to chime in and show my support. And I remember last year about this time, about the decision of schools to open or close, and hundreds of people were on this board meeting. I think, like Erika said, to her point in Cayucas, that I think you're not seeing many parents on this meeting because the vast majority are fine with masks. We feel it's protecting the children, it's protecting our community. They put it on, they do fine. They even forget to take it off. And I appreciate what you're doing and that you are listening to all of us and moving forward with the state's guidelines. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you very much, Ms. Slaughter. Mrs. Dawson, is there anyone else? Okay, seeing no one, we'll move to the written public comment. And we did receive, I believe, 2 written public comments, which Dr. Eisendrath Rogers will now read.
First one is from Joyce Singh. Dear Dr. Prater and school board, I appreciate you so much for all your hard work and your commitment to the well-being and health of SLC USD students and families, especially as you constantly have to assess and readjust as the COVID-19 rates and what's known keeps changing. I fully support making it mandatory for everyone on campus to mask indoors and for requiring staff to get vaccinated and or tested for COVID-19 weekly. I am grateful that the SLC USD school board, administration, and staff listen to the experts and follow the federal and state health and safety guidelines to make it safe as feasibly possible for students and families this year. Thank you so much. Next is from James and Amber Moore. My name is James Moore, and I am writing on behalf of myself, my wife, Amber, and our son, who is slated to begin school this week at Monarch Elementary. The last year and a half have been challenges I do not think any thought you would face as you entered into public service. The challenges have been great, and we appreciate your work in guiding the school district as best you know how through such difficult time and with so much contention around the issues at hand. Amid gratitude, we are concerned that the most effectual safety measures are not being implemented to ensure the safety of our children. As is widely known by now, the Delta variant of COVID-19 is creating a heightened safety hazard to children, though its full impact is still unknown. Because of that, we write to ask why distancing, universal masking, and mandated vaccinations for all eligible persons are not being required. Across the country, we are seeing a rise in hospitalizations, and many of those are children. Previously unseen numbers of severe pediatric cases around our country are being reported. While our county is not seeing that, our concern is that without robust public health measures, we may. The letter titled SLCUSD Family Communication of July 30th, 2021 states, and I quote, "Vaccination is the leading public health prevention strategy to end the COVID-19 pandemic. And San Luis Coastal County currently has 56% of qualified residents fully vaccinated. The school system in California has a high standard of required vaccinations in order to attend their schools. This vaccine should be among them. All eligible persons should be required to show proof of vaccination before coming on campus. This is our duty to protect the vulnerable in our community. It is in part this school district's responsibility to help boost the low vaccination rate of our county through mandating this extremely safe and efficacious vaccine for all eligible staff, students, and volunteers."
Thank you very much. Thanks to everyone who participated and everyone who gave us public comments this evening. We'll now close public comment and move on to item number 6.01, business and budget update. I believe that would be Mr. Pinkerton first.
So just a quick update for the board. Kudos to grounds and our custodial team throughout the district, getting schools ready, kind of hitting that last touch, make things, we want things to look pristine, look really good for that first opening day of school as we move through, and they've been working hard. So there'll be some OT hours here over the next couple of days to make sure we get everything in place. And but Mr. Vaughn and myself have visited every single school site, and they've done a great job. Things are really looking good, getting ready for that Thursday start. For the board to know, I have put together a nice chart with kind of the breakdown of all the COVID funding that we've received. So I have that for you. I'll be sharing that with the board. And actually at the next meeting, we'll probably have a public hearing to get input from people on how they would like us to use those ESSER $3. So I look forward to sharing that and getting public input as well as our staff and stakeholders as we move forward. I was fortunate enough today to give a little kind of speech to our food service team. So they were all together today. Exciting times with food service, and that we can feed every single student, right? Both breakfast and lunch for free. So it is an exciting time for them and for that group. So I got to share the board's priorities and goals and mission this morning with them. And it was just nice, I think, for them to just be included in that conversation and talk and to understand their place in educating the students in San Luis Coastal. And so, and of course, just a huge, overwhelming thank you to them for all the work they did with those food boxes for students and families over the past year and a half. So it was a really nice meeting and a nice time to meet with them and talk to them.
Great. Thank you. Next, we'll have 6.02 Ed Services Update. Mrs. Frost.
Thank
Oh,
you.
sure. I'm sorry. Mr. Buckman has a question for you. I apologize.
Ryan, real quickly, there's been a lot of personnel activity this year. You've taught us to look carefully at the personnel
Mhm.
percent in the budget. Do you have a rough idea where we stand now?
Not yet.
Okay.
Not yet.
Okay.
I mean, it's coming. So we're, a lot, again, a lot of hiring, a lot of, it's all, I will say it's all part of the plan, right? It was all part of the budget that the board passed, the LCAP, you did pass the expanded learning opportunities grant. So all of this is allocated in terms of personnel. So while it seems like a lot, we've also received a lot of extra funds, right? So, overall bottom line is increased to go along with those hiring. But is definitely something that, we'll be revisiting, looking at, in particular at first interim for the board, right? Just to know where we're at from that percentage wise.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Pinkerton from board members? All right. Now we'll move on to 6.02, Mrs. Frost.
Thank you. I just wanted to remind the board and the public that this Thursday, our students come back to school full-time, 5 days a week, all day long, and we're very excited. We haven't had our kids back, all of them, full-time since March of 2020, so this is a real celebration for us. Our students will be wearing masks inside, but can remove the masks outside per public health guidance. We've also publicized our COVID safety plan and our COVID prevention plan and have had a number of training opportunities for our staff. Our administrators have had a couple of trainings. Our teachers also this week are going through COVID safety trainings, classified staff as well. Tomorrow, we are providing a question and answer opportunity for all of our teachers, a live opportunity with Holly Warwick, who is our workplace infection coordinator, and I will be present as well to answer questions. And then tomorrow afternoon, we're offering the same opportunity in an open forum via Zoom for our parents. So we really hope to answer those critical questions that people still have before returning their kids to school on Thursday. And then finally, we do have some of our parents who are choosing to keep their kids home. We have offered independent study and we have some partnering agreements with some districts in our area. And we know that they will have a positive experience there, but I also want our families to know and make it very clear that the minute they want to come back to San Luis Coastal in our classrooms, we will get them back in their home school. And then I think the one last thing I'd like to talk about this week is Professional Development Week for our teachers. We've had really powerful professional development for both our elementaries and secondary teachers. We had Nancy Fry, co-author of Rebound, really looking at the idea that these students are returning to our campuses, to our classrooms. How do we serve them? How do we look at moving them forward, working with them? Like I said, it was secondary and elementary. Our teachers got to participate at their home sites with their staff so they could work through these issues and what it might mean for their own campuses. So again, I think it was very powerful for our teachers.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Frost. Yeah, of course. Ms. Dobler-Drew, and then if there's anybody else, I'll try to, and then followed by that, Mrs.
Yeah.
Frame.
That's a wonderful, exciting launch to the year. Thank you very much. And my question is, with the beautiful weather we have, although we would like to have more rain, we're not getting more rain. To what extent have you heard from schools as to the kinds of outdoor classes that they can have? I believe it's a school by school choice, but I haven't heard any kind of reporting on that. Have you?
You know, that's an excellent question. I know in our trainings and with Holly Warwick, when we're advising our administrators and we're advising our teachers, we're telling them to look for those outdoor opportunities for their students. Some of our students might need a mask break, but it also is beautiful outside. We have mostly very large campuses. Our teachers can take their classes to outdoor areas that are set up for them. They can bring out their chairs, they can sit on the grass. So while we have this great weather that you mentioned, I think that opportunity is available and we've let them know that.
Sounds good to me. Thank you very much.
Mrs. Frame.
Thank you, Ms. Frost. That was pretty exciting news. I just had a quick question regarding independent study, do we have approximate numbers for the district? I mean,
Right now, we're working with less than 100 families who are asking for independent study, and honestly, quite a few less than 100. But we are working individually with each one of them.
Okay.
Our directors, Mr. O'Connor is working with those secondary families. Mr. Mayfield is working with the elementary families, making sure that they are appropriately placed.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Any other questions from board members? Okay. Oh, yeah, Ms. Dobler-Drew.
Have you had any requests for medical exemptions for math?
I can't tell you if I've had specific exemptions, but that possibility is open to our families.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Dr. Eisendrath Rogers.
Mrs. Ross, I just wanted to clarify my understanding of what you said is that that less than 100 parents had asked to homeschool. And then you said that if any of those students want to come back into our schools, they would be welcome to, but they would be homeschooled. So at what point would they?
No,
be-
I might have misspoke.
Oh, okay. got it.
So yes, AB 130 that kind of governs the independent study requires that the home school and home district place the children within 5 days back into a classroom. So an in-person classroom at the parent request. And we've had that in the documents, the information that we've given our families, and we will follow up with reminders just in case our parents want to come back.
Thank you for that clarification.
And I believe that we are trying our hardest to place any students coming back from independent study back into their home schools. Is that correct?
In their home school, absolutely, and hopefully in the classroom that they were supposed to be in the first place.
Okay, great. Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, how about 6.03 Measure D update? Mr. Pinkerton.
Yeah, so just a quick update. As Mr. Brewington said, the classes are looking great. So in terms of CTE, those programs around, but I want to take a minute to thank the teachers and students and other staff on the campuses, because working through a construction zone and going through school through a construction zone is a pain, right? As I walked up to J2, you'll notice there's a couple of classes next door. So, that's those 7-minute passing periods, those students and teachers have to get up there and get to those, and walking around things and walking through, through just dirt or things like that, right? So they have been remarkable, happy. I'm really glad that the kids now at least get to be in some of the new facilities, right? Get to use them, get to see things, right? And be part of it. But it really takes a lot, right? For people just to stay positive as we're going through, kind of these last phases of construction. So, and then again, from the science teachers at Slow High to the CTE to the teachers at Morro Bay High who had to move out of their classroom and go through everything, right? Years and decades in some cases of materials and supplies, and throw things away and get new things. And now they're having to unpack everything here in the fall. So it's just a lot, right? It's a lot that they have to go through. And so again, thank you to them for taking the time and the energy to get that done. And then lastly, the board, I was able to update the board at our Thursday study session in terms of kind of progress where we're at. We do have one GMP for the demolition and abatement at the building C, the classroom building at Morro Bay High, which is the last project at Morro Bay High. So kind of exciting in terms of that, right? And so that'll be later on in the agenda. Thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Pinkerton? Okay, I'm not seeing any. Dr. Prater, did you have something you wanted to add? Okay, sorry. Let's move on to item number 7.01, adopt board vision, mission, and priorities. Dr. Prater.
Well, thank you. It's good to be back, and I feel like it's the little kid in me. The right before school begins, I just remember all the excitement I had as a youngster, and I just can feel it out there in our community. And I'm just super excited to have a great start of our school year on Thursday. And tonight I have 2 items that I'm looking for your approval on. And it's under this one agenda item, but it's a dual approval. And one is to approve the vision, mission, and guiding principles document, as well as the board priority document. Neither one of these documents are new to you because you have built them and constructed them and crafted them. This is the formal approval of these documents. What the board may not, or what the public may not realize is this school board is the hardest and hardest working and most dedicated group of elected officials I've ever worked with or have seen. Over the last 18 months in particular, you have not only taken on this COVID experience, which has been quite frankly unbelievable, and but you've done it with such grace and such class, and I'm proud to work with you. You have agreed not only to take on the safety mitigation measures and the hundreds, if not thousands, of parents that have provided input into this process, and it's just been a pleasure. While we were in COVID last year, you decided to meet, in addition to your regular board sessions, you agreed to develop and reconstruct the district's vision, mission, and guiding principles. And this document in particular, I'd like to start with. And this document is especially important because in our board policy, it expects the board to revisit the board's vision and mission on a regular basis. And we had not done that over quite some time because we had created those initiatives, and we use those initiatives, quite frankly, as that vision. Well, this particular document this evening, I'm really proud to be a part of, because I think while it's not perfect, I haven't seen a vision, mission, guiding principle document that is, but I think it really does say a lot about who we are and what we aspire to become. And before I go through this document, I do want you to think of it as being 30,000 feet in the air. This is a vision document, and there are associated goals that are with it. Those goals are really meant as aspirational targets. Those goals are really meant to say, here's where we should go or could go over the next several years. That's not to say that those goals are, I'm tying your hands to those goals. Those are simply ideas that were shared over the course of 6 months while the board worked on its vision, mission, and guiding principles. And I think it's important to see it that way. And later on in this agenda item, we're going to talk about the board priorities that you created based on thousands of inputs from key stakeholders over the course of an entire year, from students to parents to groups of staff members across our district. And it's a really nice cross-representation of interests. And you have created a board priority document that really keeps us focused on the right things. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. By approving these things tonight, assuming that, you know, with revisions perhaps, but assuming you approve both these documents tonight, what it will do is it will set our district in motion, and it'll create what I call alignment or coherence to the goals that are within our LCAP document, where we're spending our money on kids and our objectives. And I think it lines up really nicely. This is important that we are able to articulate what we are about and where we're going. And that's what these two documents do. And I'm seeking your approval. So tonight, I'd like to start with the vision and mission. Mandy, could you pull that document up and just go to the vision and mission portion of that, please? And what I'd like to do is read the vision and mission and then talk a little bit about the core principles and values that go with it. And again, I just so appreciate all the work that you went through and committed to, in addition to your regular board duties, to generate this document. Our vision, again, 30,000 feet in the air, is San Luis Coastal prepares each student for a life of purpose. Our students become courageous and creative thinkers. They are college and career ready, skillful collaborators, and productive contributors to a diverse and rapidly evolving world. And I think that really is a beautiful statement. And if you If you walk through our classrooms and look at our teachers and the work that they're doing with our kids, I think that captures this aspirational vision quite well. And then the mission, how do we accomplish that vision? Well, it talks about San Luis Coastal educates students through rigorous, relevant, and engaging experiences provided by caring, connected staff with support of the entire community. And I really believe that that mission captures what it is we're about. If you walk around our school district, walk within our classrooms, you'll see teachers that care deeply for their kids. You'll see teachers working together with one another to try to create the best lessons that will capture the interest of our kids while involving and engaging the parents. I just think it really does speak to who we are. And I think these two vision and mission documents really speak to that. And I'd like to go for a moment, if I could, to the next page, which is the core principle document. Now, what this is, to me, captures what I hope to say to you is who we are. So the vision and mission are way up there, but the core principle document really captures our values, the things that as individuals and as a collective body, we represent. You as elected officials, myself and my team, as those that are charged to carry that out on your behalf for the community. We start with all means all. To me, this is so important. And it talks about that all staff focus on success for all students. There are many pathways and opportunities for students to learn, achieve, and celebrate their intellectual, creative, personal, and future success. For me, that says it all. We are about that. And that's aspirational because we're not perfect, we're fallible, but this is what we're about, that all kids matter, regardless of their background, regardless of their circumstances, that we're gonna make it our business to make sure all kids are included in that success story. The next piece is something I know to be very true and often lost in the narrative, and that is high expectations. For those of you that have taught before or have had experience working with people, with kids, you'll know that children know right away if you believe they can achieve at high levels. The funny thing is we oftentimes confuse caring with acting in the best interest of kids. And I'm here to tell you that's not necessarily true. High expectations is a message that you send out into the classroom and among one another, that we hold high expectations for everyone, including ourselves, the board, myself, the teachers, the custodians, the bus drivers, all the way down, everyone in our organization. We believe that we can perform at high levels, that we can do our work very well and at high levels, and we can do difficult things. When you send that message to kids, it's been my life experience that kids rise up to that challenge. If you think back to your favorite teacher or the most influential person in your life who was very likely a teacher, you'll find that that person held high expectations and you met them and you weren't always sure you could, but you did. The next one is respect and integrity. For me, how we communicate our values, how we treat other people is such an important piece to the relationship that we develop with our kids and with one another as an organization. And what this says is communication and interactions among and between students, staff, and parents is defined by mutual respect, trust, empathy, and support. SLCUSD strives to create a safe space for students to learn about themselves, other people, and the world around them. Such a powerful, powerful belief statement. And I will say to you, just watching tonight's meeting, Mr. Unger, the way you embrace the community, the public comment, even though there were some diverse opinions, you did it evenly and with respect and integrity in mind. And I just think it's important to point that out. The other piece of this is collaboration and civil discourse. All too often, I just must commend the public tonight because there were some very emotional comments and feelings, and there is among us and in society today. But tonight, and for the most part, I see a level of respect and civil discourse for differences. And so for me, that's so important that we model that. And what this says is the organization works collaboratively and creatively to ensure student success in a supportive environment. Decisions are made with stakeholder input and participation, critical thinking, collegial dialogue, and civil discourse around challenging problems are expected. Successes are recognized and celebrated. And I think that's a really important thing that we model for future citizens. Culture of care and safety. This to me is it's a natural consequence of all those other things above it, which is schools are and all district work sites are safe and secure environments for students, parents, and staff. San Luis Coastal focuses on the social emotional needs of our students, values students' voices, and creates nurturing and inclusive school communities. Students, staff, and families are compassionate school community members. And I see that, and I do see that as an incredible core value of our district and community. And I'm proud to be a part of it. And then the last part is continuous improvement. We're all fallible. We're all works in progress. We're all trying to be better each day in what we do. And I think if we model that, there's a sense of humility. There's a sense of pride in what we do. But what we really honor and what we really appreciate is that we're going to each try to become better than we were the day before. And this idea of continuous improvement really challenges us as an organization to become better each year. This document sort of sets the stage. It sets that narrative in motion that this is who we are. The next page is what I will say to you. I won't go through the whole thing, but what the next series of pages are, they are a reflection of the comments and the ideas shared by the board, by the staff throughout the past 6 months while we were developing and having these conversations. If you recall, we had my team come in and talk about grade spans and the things that go on within those grade spans. And it was a bit monotonous. I mean, there was a lot of work going on because remember, we were still running our program, our school district, and my group, my staff put those pieces together. And the reason I think this is important is that we began to break it apart and look at our early childhood education components, look at our grade spans all the way up through high school. And the commitment this document really places upon the board is simply one of an aspirational one, that these are the things that we would like to achieve and look forward to. Now, I will say to you, and I was mentioning this to someone earlier, that there are things, the world is changing so quickly that there will be changes and modifications as we move along based on what we learn and what we see. And for me, where we hold our bread and butter as a district is in the annualized feedback that we get ongoing from our district community. And we then modify our annual priorities based on where we see our organization's next steps. And hopefully this will align. Hopefully these things will all fall into place, but not necessarily, because there are lots of what ifs. What ifs? Do we have the money, the resources? Are we able to bring everyone along to achieve these things? And our priorities might change a bit as we go. And I certainly honor that and understand that. So what I have here is the vision, mission, guiding principles, along with some aspirational goals for your approval tonight. And I'm certainly willing to hear your feedback on that and see what you think. And then I'd like to go through the board priorities for this coming year.
So Dr. Prater, the board this is an action item. Is the board approving both of these things?
Together.
Because we need to take public comment on this. And so I guess what I'll do is I'll bring it back to the board.
Yeah.
Then I'll let you do the second half.
Okay.
And then we'll go to public comment at that point.
Perfect.
Okay, cool, perfect. So is there anybody from the board that would like to talk to us about this right now that has a, Mr. Buck? Yeah. I'm sorry, what, Mark? No, I'm gonna, because this is an action item. So I thought what we do is we let the board ask Dr. Prater questions and make comments. Then Dr. Prater would present the second half of it. Then I'll go to the public and then I'll bring it back to the board for a vote. So, Mr. Buckman, did you have a comment? Yeah, do you want to turn your mic on, sir? You want to turn your mic on?
This is just like the Zoom thing. I can't even get the mute off. So first of all, I just want to say how proud I am to be part of a group that did this work and how proud I am to have or supportive of a staff that brought this forward and then supported it with all the data and gave us the opportunity to do that look from up in the sky. There was a lot of discussion when we were doing this about the achievement gap. And I just feel personally that we need to put a number to that. So when the public reads this, when the public hears us use that term, as I get it, we talked about the SED students and EL students being the majority of that achievement gap. And my understanding is our SED population makes up almost 50% of the district population, about 43%. Am I close?
It was higher pre-COVID.
Okay.
We were nearing 40%.
40%.
And now I believe we're down to 36%.
Right.
But still, it's well over a third of our student population.
No, I'm not great at math, but I'm going to say 1,000, 1,500 kids that make that up.
Yeah.
So for me, I just need to have a number to go with that concept because it's a lot bigger number than I thought it was. So again, I'm just so excited that we have this kind of document to present to staff to move forward with this. Thank you.
Yes.
Anyone else from the board?
I do have this.
Okay, Dr. Eisendrath Rogers, and then Evelyn, did you? Okay. And then anyone else? Okay, we'll come back. Okay.
I just wanted to say that the board did indeed work very hard during our our program where we got together and wrote this document and worked on this document. It was hard work and it was good work though. It was good hard. But most importantly, I just want to say that Dr. Prater always graciously gives us all the credit for this. And I think we all have to admit that the craftsman behind this is really you, and that you are the wind beneath our wings, and so to speak. And so I have to publicly thank you for that, because you have helped us get to a level where I believe we are doing the very best work that we could possibly do for our students. So thank you.
Thanks. Mrs. Frame.
Thank you, Dr. Prater. And indeed, it was a pleasure and a lot of hard work on everyone's part, and kind of the guiding sail that you gave us. And there's some of these things that I particularly really call attention to. Those core principles and values really kind of spring forward to me. And somebody may read them and really not necessarily pay attention, but I think that, it is who we are, and it's not just aspirational, it's really kind of our central, as you said, central core values. So I really appreciate, how they're written and really that focus on them. And I also appreciate, because I was struggling a bit as I was reading this, is apart from the vision and mission, which, we updated, was the goals, because I began to be a little bit worried about money tied to it. And then you've clarified that about as aspirational. And the one thing it said in the document is looking at it over 5 years. But you kind of mentioned that we'll be looking at it annually. So that's kind of I guess my question is really, when we look at this, and how should the public be looking at those goals, I guess is really what I want to say.
Yeah, Mrs. Frame, that's those excellent questions and worth clarifying. The draft or the strategic goals that are here are designed, at least in my view, as targets, and we placed goals next to it, and that can be a bit misleading. But what I want to share with you is that I've worked with our board now for 12, this is my 12th year. And I really believe that long-range strategic planning has certain value. And I apologize to those who really believe in these long-range goals. But in my experience, it's the aspirational targets, but it's the annual trim tab and progress monitoring and adjustments that really make a district thrive. And so without undervaluing these goals, these aspirational goals, I don't mean to do that, but they really were captured over a 6-month period with some of the feedback from the board. And they're all worthy and they're worthwhile looking at. But really what drives us as a district will be the vision, mission, and guiding principles. But annually, really what drives us is the LCAP, which gets to Mr. Buckman's point, which is how are we going to operationalize and define achievement metrics? What are those tangible annual goals within the LCAP, which is the accountability, the local control accountability plan, which is a 3-year plan that we're bound to by the state. Okay, that's a big chunk of our budget, $6 million dedicated to our most at-risk students. Okay, so for me, what the board has done beautifully and really has done seamlessly is we are constantly self-checking based on the feedback we're getting and the questions that we ask every board meeting, because you'll see tonight, we're going to have 2 presentations about multi-tiered system support and the summer experience along with PD. And really what's within that is rich information that you could then inform, say, Dr. Prater, here are my questions regarding what I see there. And I hope that we pay attention next month or next week on these things. So you have the LCAP, which is derived and approved annually and modified annually based on what we're seeing and hearing, seeing in the classroom, in the assessment results, our anecdotal observations, your board walks, the things that you see out there and that we see, and then we make modifications every year. And what I want to say about our board is we also meet multiple times in the year, but every June, you spend an entire day really looking at the priorities for the following year. And those priorities are what you're going to approve hopefully later this evening and are on this agenda item. And that really reflects that immediacy. Like, what is it that needs to happen this coming year based on feedback, thousands and thousands of inputs throughout the year, from surveys to staff. And I have to say, and Diane Frost reached out to me today about some questions about how we engage our parents and our public and our staff. And can we do it differently? Are there more creative and effective ways to get more feedback that's authentic and perhaps more accurate and fine-tuned that will then inform the board? And so I guess to answer your question, these are nice goals. These are nice targets. But the truth is every year in the spring, the board rolls up their sleeves and asks really important questions about how are we supporting our targeted populations that are most at risk? How do we know they're actually achieving? And if not, what are we going to do about it the following year? And those become, in effect, board priorities. every year our board doesn't just look at the at-risk population, but the collective, and ask lots of questions like, how do we enrich our students' experiences on the collective? Not just the kids that are at risk, but what about the kids that are thriving in different ways? How are we meeting their needs? And you're asking all those questions. So to answer your question, the annual board priorities and the annual approval of the LCAP is really what drives our district forward. We will keep our eyes on these aspirational targets. We will always align ourselves to the vision, mission, and guiding principles, because if we get off track on that, something bad will happen. We'll lose our way. So my job is to keep you as a board and us as a district on the right tracks, keep us focused on the right things that are in alignment with our core values, principles, and vision. And that's reflected in your board priorities annually and the LCAP that we dedicate millions of dollars to annually. So I hope I answered that question.
Okay. Good. Other questions from board members on this part? Yes. Oh yeah, definitely. What we'll do is Dr. Prater, I think we're done with this part, and I'm not seeing any other questions. Do you want to go to what your second part will be, and then we'll open it up to the public, and then we'll bring it back to the board for further discussion and for a motion if that's what the board so desires.
Thank you, Mr. Unger. So Mrs. Frame's question really lines up beautifully, because where did these board priorities come from? The board priorities that are before you tonight actually came out of a multi-month conversation where you were looking at student achievement data. Well, in the last year, you were actually hearing anecdotal expressions of how kids were doing by way of student senate, by way of common ground, district equity team. There were a lot of inputs, parent feedback loops. We had, I want to say, over 20 parent forums. We had, I want to say, 10 to 15 staff forums last year alone to gather input, get feedback, figure out what's working, what's not working. In that case, distance learning. So as we ended last year in a hybrid back to school, half day, really difficult model, but we tried. While that was going on, we adopted a 3-year LCAP. And that LCAP was focused on students that had unfinished learning. And we knew they had unfinished learning based on the preliminary data. We were the only district in the county that decided to have the kids take their SBAC tests. And there was some debate about that, but I'm proud of the fact that we did it. I'm proud because we're going to get that information now, not until it looks like the end of September, but we'll get that information, and it should help inform us when considered against the backdrop of some of these formative assessments that we have given our kids. And by then we'll have learned more. That'll help position us well. So these priorities that you see in front of you tonight came out of multiple hours and multiple meetings of conversations with you, my staff, and the community at large. And what you have here was fully refined, I should say, after you adopted the LCAP. Okay. And you met as a group, as a board, for a full day in a retreat to discuss these priorities. And I'm really proud of them. I think you nailed it. I really think you nailed it. And so what I'd like to do really quickly is talk about those 4, and I'm calling them strategic direction, number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, but they're really your priorities. This is the direction that you, so you know, so the public knows, this was your evaluation of me. These are the things you said in my evaluation that you want to see us do as a district moving forward. And what all I did was I took what you wrote in my evaluation and I placed it into strategic direction. We have backward mapped every single one of these bullets in our master planning calendar for the coming year. So you as a board are going to see evidence every board meeting throughout the year of how we are trying to operationalize and try to figure out and achieve these targets. Okay, that's why I call it strategic direction, because that's really what it is. So Evelyn, if there's nothing else that defines that question better than what you asked, is this document. Is how we as a district function, and it's focused on all the right things, which is in alignment with the vision, mission, and guiding principles, I certainly believe. So the first strategic direction is achievement, deep learning, and support. And within that, we'll prioritize student achievement and support by using metrics to document the recovery of unfinished learning while encouraging learning leaps and opportunities across all student groups. Okay. Now, I have mistakenly in the past, and I must acknowledge this, used the word learning loss. And in Dr. Doug Fisher, in his training with our staff over the last 2 weeks, he didn't know I used the words learning loss, but he admonished those who did. And I agree with him. So shame on me. And what he suggested is use the word unfinished learning. It shifts it a bit. And I acknowledge that and I accept that. And it's now in this document refined. And I think it better reflects respect and integrity in the core principles. And it really captures what I think we're about. And it captures the spirit of what we're about. So that first bullet is all about making sure all means all, that we move kids towards success. Okay. The second bullet is we will utilize a multi-tiered system of support to identify specific areas of need while integrating hands-on and engaging enrichment activities for all learners. We heard this from our students. You heard this from our students, that they're seeking relevant, meaningful, engaging learning through a relationship with their teachers. That's what they're asking for, all of them. And I think it's really powerful that this ended up in your priority document because it validates student voice in our district. And I know in my heart and in my professional experience, this is important. The third bullet, we will look beyond traditional school schedules and models to explore creative and innovative solutions to engage and support all learners. What this is the silver lining of the last 18 months has shown us that there's different ways that kids learn and different ways we as an organization can deliver that instruction and do things creatively. And that bullet is going to take us some doing, but it's worth diving into, and it's made your strategic priorities come alive. And then the final bullet under that strategic direction, number 1, is that we will create opportunities that empower students to take ownership over their learning in order for them to find purpose, meaning, and joy in their education and to excel beyond high school. This could include expanding career technical education. You heard from Mr. Brewington tonight. It's well and alive here. And as well as more comprehensive selections of academic course offerings in the arts and sciences. We're hearing that from kids. And I do think that creativity is found there in many ways that we just haven't allowed to come alive. The second direction, strategic direction, is intentional culture of care. We will ensure that all students are empowered to reach their fullest potential by valuing student voice, address inequities, and closing opportunity gaps. We know that some kids have certain access to things or perceived access to things. And we know some kids have perceptions that they don't have access to things. How do we change those perceptions? How do we really project that, yes, you can take that course. And not only can you take it, you should take it. And let me help you get there, right? That's what that's about. And then the second bullet is we're committed to creating a nurturing, inclusive learning environment where all students, staff, and families feel deeply connected to their school community. Tomorrow night, there are a couple back to school nights. We're taking some risks. We're doing it outside. We're staggering the grade levels when they come. And we're really just trying to invite parents back into the conversation in person so they can actually feel that campus energy again. And because there's some disconnection there. And then San Luis Coastal will focus on the social, emotional needs of our students through a targeted system of counseling support. And you're going to hear more about that in the coming weeks. The third strategic direction, shared leadership and stakeholder engagement. And this right here is we will create conditions for shared leadership by building a culture of trust, collegiality, and shared responsibility with students, staff, and families. Easier said than done. Very challenging to do this well, and I think we're well equipped to do it. We will utilize technology and innovative practices to encourage greater levels of involvement from across the community and with our stakeholders. Tonight is a great example. We are, in my knowledge, the only district in the county that is doing Zoom and in person in our board meetings in real time. And I think it says a lot about who we are. Again, core values and principles. And it's in your priority document. And then the final strategic direction is a critical one, as anyone knows who's been in a school district for very long, and that's the effective stewardship of resources. Your priority that you shared with me in my evaluation is that you want me to maximize resources, including time, talent, and finances to advance our student success goals. And let that sink in. So you've identified in this statement, this one bullet, the critical nature of not just managing your budget, but knowing full and well that people represent 85% of our budget. And if we don't maximize and find efficiencies with how people use their time and target their energies, we are missing the boat. So we've got to find a way to build capacity and make sure we make the most. As Ms. Frost said to the team earlier this summer, time is a commodity. And so we have to be very careful in how we utilize our time. Where we place our time says everything about what we value. And then the final bullet is that we'll focus on the successful completion of Measure D. We are excited that we're going to complete all of our projects that we promised our community 4 or 5 years ago. We are on target to complete all of those projects that we promised, which is a rare feat. And I'm so proud of Mr. Pinkerton, Mr. Vaughn, Mr. Holcomb, the team that has really put that together and made it happen. It's just an extraordinary thing. And I'm excited to be a part of that. So your priority is make sure you finish that and do it right. And then the other part is the evaluation of our surplus properties. That is a key next step for us because there are opportunities there to enter at the intersection of those surplus properties and what we know those properties could represent in terms of supporting our student success goals, hiring very qualified employees that wouldn't otherwise be able to move here. There are a lot of things there that have extraordinary insight and value. So these are the strategic priorities. And I want to just take quick note, the attachment on the back of that is the cheat sheet, if you will, the cliff note, the super summary document of the LCAP. That again creates alignment. So your priorities align with the LCAP document that you approved in June. Those documents are critical to our success, that they align so that we're not working at cross purposes. So the budget aligns with the priorities, and our staff who are working with kids on the ground floor know that we are in alignment. And when we fall out of alignment, they can call us out on it. Or you can call me out on it. And that's how it should work. That's called accountability. And that's what this document's about. So I present to you the board priorities for 21-22. And I look forward to answering any questions you might have.
Cool. Let's go to the public and see if there's any public comment. Is there anyone attending the meeting right now that would like to address the board on this side? Okay, seeing none. Mrs. Dawson, is there anyone from the public who would like to address us via Zoom? Not seeing anyone. So let's bring it back to the board for board comments and then see if someone would like to make a motion. Mrs. Dobler-Drew.
Oh, yes. Well, it's a wonderful document here, Dr. Prater. Thank you. 2 documents. This one has the 3 focuses that we see in the multicolored table. And, you know, focus 1 being the engaging curriculum, rigorous, that is something that most of us are familiar with from the past. I do want to say I like the emphasis on career technical education because I see that as, in a changing economy, I see that as a very realistic way for students to work their way through college and to know what their passions are and to know themselves well and to interact with the community. So I love the emphasis on that. But other than that, it's a lot of it is something that's familiar with us from the past. And focus 2, the multi-tiered academic support. Before I retired as a teacher after 25 years in 2018, we were using in the other district where I was, we were using that multi-tiered academic support. So that's familiar to me. But the focus 3, the intentional culture of care, that is a brand new concept. 3 years ago, when I was a teacher, that didn't exist. So I'm particularly interested in being kept apprised of the development in that particular area, because there are many different influences from our society now that are coming through both our personnel and as well as top down and bottom up community influences. There have been so many changes in society that I really would like to know a lot about that area because it's murky in my mind and it is amorphous and it's developing and changing. And I just would like to get to know the beast a little better, as it were. So thank you. I'm very happy with the document.
Thank you. Thanks. Anybody else? Supervisor Rogers?
Yes, please. Just Dr. Prater, you said we are on target to complete to a completion date for Measure D. Do we dare say what that date might not be?
Yes, I would love to throw out a date. But I'm looking at the 100 building down at Slow High. And we're all looking at the track over here. So in my mind, at Slow High, we should, within two years, maybe 3 years, we should have that entire campus done, completed. And at Morro Bay High, sooner than that, I would like to think, where they're currently working on the theater, food service area. It's a beautiful, beautiful building. I helped myself to walk through the other day and probably shouldn't have, but I did without a tour guide, and was really excited to see the progress they're making there. So I'm envisioning the way Morro Bay High is working within a couple of years. So Morro Bay should be done first, then Slow High. The projects at Slow High are more complicated in my mind, in my observation, and then just fine tuning some things. Like the parking area, the second entry point at Morro Bay High is that whole area will be redone. It's part of the finishing touches to kind of bring it all together. And so I'm thinking Morro Bay within a couple of years, and Slow High within 3 years we'll be done.
Excellent. It's good to know. I think people.
Am I close? Am I close?
You're very close. You're very close. I think most of the buildings probably 2 years, both Morro and Slow. And then, we'll be finishing up kind of the quad area at Slow High after that. So that's kind of but for the most part, I think 2 years.
Not bad.
Not bad. Thank you.
Mrs. Sheffer.
Thank you. I wanted to I was reading these and listening to you this evening, Dr. Prater, and noticing that the wonderful thing is that there's no mention in any of this about masks, COVID, vaccinations, all those things we've been dealing with for the last year and a half, that the focus is on our students, their well-being, our personnel, our learning environments, and that what we are about, which is academic and personal success for our students. And whatever that looks like, and I know it's been really hard, but whether they have masks on when they come back, when we reach a point where perhaps they don't have to have masks on, that's all beside the point, as far as I'm concerned. We're about, and my colleagues have heard me say this, and I'll say it again, we're about getting the butts in seats, to be a little crude, and our eyes on kids. And I'm so excited that we're going to be doing that, no matter what it may look like, beginning the school year, because that's why we're here. And this is focused on that, on academics, tutoring. I'm just, as I go through it, on culture of care and learning, and all means all. And we welcome them all. And I'm so excited to be seeing them return. It's going to be just lift me up to go see the kids in the classrooms. It's been a long time, and that's what we're here for. And if I'm looking at them, their eyes from behind masks, I'm going to see what they're doing. I'm going to see what the teachers are doing, and it's wonderful. And so these are the supporting documents showing what we're doing, no matter what other forces we're needing to pay attention to, such as the health mandates and things that we're following from the county and state. But this is what we're about. So thank you.
Thank you. Other board members? Someone like to make a motion? Okay. Mrs. Sheffer.
I'd make a motion to adopt, is that what you're looking for, or
Yeah.
approve the district's strategic direction, as well as the board priorities and goals.
And Mrs. Frame, you had your hand up. Do you want to second that? And second by Mrs. Frame. Is there any further board discussion on this item? Mrs. Dobler-Drew.
Well, this may be going too much into detail, but because we had a wonderful field trip as a board to the Slow Hot House, I was wondering in what aspect that would fit in here. I would love to envision business being involved, not just, groups, specific businesses being involved, possible internships by our children, all kinds of exciting things.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And that is actually in there. It's embedded in multiple spots.
I was looking, but
Yeah.
what spot was that?
Yeah, so it's, let me just,
Well, it says community groups by direction number 3. And so I wondered if businesses are, we're assuming that was a community group.
Yeah, so the, which document, are you looking at the priority document?
Oh, I have the strategic priorities, yes.
I know it's a little bit, so the strategic priorities, where it says, the second bullet on strategic direction number 3,
Yes.
and under strategic direction number 1, 4th bullet, that's where those two intersect.
Because it would be through CTE.
Correct.
Okay, I
And-
thought as much
well,
and wanted it confirmed.
And our foundation, our
And the foundation.
San Luis Coastal Foundation is heavily involved in marrying that, the business industry leaders with our district through partnership.
Yeah.
And so what you saw at the hot house with the site leaders, site administrators, was a reflection of the beginnings of that coming to fruition.
Yeah, I was just really excited about that because, businesses are taking a hit, small businesses and the kids need to be able to have more options than just the four-year colleges because that's very expensive. And so that's where equity comes into.
It certainly is one element of that, yes.
Mhm.
And our business leaders are excited to work with us and showing quite a lot of interest because they now see a way. Well, quite frankly, they see our district able to operationalize that relationship.
Yeah.
Where in the past we weren't able to. Now we've created the structures and the systems and now the vision to make those things happen.
Now,
So-
they didn't speak at the time, the presenters didn't speak directly about internships and that kind of thing, but they talk about startups and maybe even not just Cal Poly, but down in, because they don't just do Cal Poly, they do community members. And they had us there. So they must mean that our kids can do startups.
Yeah, well, you're exactly right. And if you think that we're starting this in the elementary ranks with I Innovate.
Yeah,
So part of the hands-on experiential learning is starting in kindergarten now. So we're actually getting our kids in the innovation labs.
Yeah, I know.
We're doing these things and we're building it up. The middle and high schools are, well, the high schools have built these really tremendous, through Measure D, these amazing spaces for kids to actually develop specific skill sets in the areas of industrial technology, coding, technology, agricultural science, wood shop and engineering. I mean, it's an amazing auto shop. I mean, I could go on and on what they're able to do now.
Wow.
And now what's been historically missing from our district is the connection to the business sector. Now we have their full attention and several of them are on our foundation board.
Yeah.
So I see it all coming together. It's been a big lift, but a lot of we're beginning to see the oars paddling in the same direction now, and we're building trust and credibility. The vision and priority documents that you have before you will help build our credibility with these very successful business leaders in our community and across the region. Vandenberg is going to become a hub of incredible and exciting opportunities that I fully expect San Luis Coastal students to participate in. So that's down the road, but we're tilling the soil now to make sure that that happens for our kids well into the future. So I appreciate you bringing that up.
It's exciting. Thank you.
And I would just add that I know we have done some of that, but it seems like what you're saying, Dr. Prater, is that we're really, this is something we're really going to try to move forward on. And I'm thinking particularly of, for example, Mr. Lemkuhl down at San Luis Obispo High School, who has placed interns in various auto technology positions and actually has placed an intern at ACI, the jet company at San Luis Obispo Airport. So we're seeing some of that, but I'm really excited also to hear that this whole idea is to broaden this for all students or students that want to participate in it actually.
And I have to tell you, and just a quick little story that happened to me just a few weeks ago. My son, who just graduated from SLO High, he has a close friend, and one of the tools that I have at my house broke, and it was metal. And my son said, "Well, I know a buddy of mine who knows how to weld." Well, I don't know how to weld. And I didn't want to hire a welder. So I was thinking, how in the world am I going to fix this? And next thing I know, my son invited his friend who had been trained in Mr. Fay's engineering lab, who's certified in welding, certified welder, who is being courted by an electrical engineering company in town. And he brought out his MIG welder and fixed this product of mine that I had out in the driveway right in front of me, welded it. And I asked him, I said, so how did you? He goes, well, I learned that in Mr. Fay's class. And this is what on just a small scale, what our young people are able to do through our district. And so it's a means to make a living. It's a means to generate a sense of agency, a sense of self-concept and skill. And I'm excited to know that we're not just going to do that in a one-off, or boy, I hope that works, or I hope enough kids get into that. But I really think through the lens of the 4-year plan, through conversations we have with our middle school students, that we open up the world of possibilities to them so that when they get into high school, they aren't afraid to try some new things and learn new skills and maybe even seek certifications that would give them a way to make a living and maybe pay their way through college or live a great life. And for me, that gets to our vision. Mr. Buckman?
Yeah, thanks. So if I can jump in here, I was I think a little over 2 weeks ago invited to a meeting down at the Mid-State Fair, actually, and of all the unions in the county. And the commitment at that meeting was that they too would be taking on high school students in a new program. And I know for a fact that some of the unions they're all looking for folks, and there's plenty of jobs out there. So there's all these partnerships, not just businesses, but also the trades.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I guess I'll just finish with a little story that many of you may remember. Probably about 4 years ago, we had a student, I believe it was probably 4 years ago. We had a student who was I think the national champion for the Skills USA in welding, and couldn't come to our meeting where he was going to be presented because he had already left for North Dakota to take a job, and he was going to make 6 figures, I believe.
Yeah.
So these things are happening. We're just going to, I think, expand them more. We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board for a vote. Ms. Dobler-Drew?
Yes.
Ms. Frame?
Yes.
Mr. Buckman? Dr. Eisendrath-Rogers?
Yes.
Mrs. Sheffer? Mrs. Roger? And I'm a yes, motion carries 7-0. It's 5 minutes to 8 o'clock. I think we should take a 10-minute break right now, and then we'll come back to item 7.02, Summer Experience Program and Summer Professional Development Update. So we'll take a 10-minute break. We'll return at 5 minutes after 8 o'clock. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Noha Kolkela and Stacy Nairn were the high school principals, and Dawn Addis was here all summer long working hard on this. Jeff Martin is going to lead us off tonight because Jeff will be heading up the planning on all of our future summer experience programs, which will be even better and more complete, starting with summer coming up. And so we'll start with Jeff Martin. Jeff.
Great. Thank you, Rick. I appreciate that. And my goal tonight is to kind of give you an overview of our summer experience program and to be able to highlight some of the experiences that students have as they went through the program this year at all of our different levels, both elementary, middle school, and high school. And then we'll pass it over to Laura Storm to talk a little bit about professional development from our staff this summer. So I'm fortunate to be responsible for carrying the development of our summer experience program forward, like Rick said, into next year. And I'm happy to be presenting to you tonight just to give you an idea that I actually have helped to kind of get to know the program a little bit this last summer, which will carry us forward into next year. So as it says here, summer experience was our LCAP focus number 2, to making sure that all students achieve substantial gains and multi-tiered systems of support. So if we can get the slideshow, there we go. Thank you, Mandy, and move on to the next slide, please. So Erin Primer continues to do great work. As you can see, she had and her team served nearly 50,000 meals this summer, roast breakfast and lunch, and all of our 5 summer experience school sites, as well as those other programs that you see there. And they ran their meal service program for nearly 2 months, and it was a great success. We had the Farm to Summer program, which is a California Department sponsored summer program, helping for students understand where their food comes from. So we had a group go out to Hawthorne Elementary School and whip up some sorbet for our students and some gelato, and they really enjoyed that. And next was our Student Support Services program. It's our extended school year, and the extended school year program is offered to special education students who qualify. And they need to qualify in a couple of those different criteria where they significantly regress in their goals progress over the course of the summer, or they have a disability so severe that instruction over the summer is necessary. So we're typically serving students here who are our special day class students with their IEPs. And some of the programs that were offered, some of the services, I should say, that were offered in ESY were speech and language, occupational therapy, adaptive PE, health and behavioral services. Those are all in place for students during the extended school year. Special program specialists were on site across all of our sites for the entire session. And it was nice too, because we're going to be reporting back the progress for those students we're making back to their classroom teachers in the fall so that they can continue to monitor their growth. And this year, the number of students attending was down a little bit, but really, like I said earlier, it's based on those who are eligible to attend who meet those criteria of need. I think last year, or I'm sorry, in 2019, we had about 146 students attending. And the schedule this year was created so that students did not have to miss any more school than 2 weeks. So there was no time when they weren't in school for more than 2 weeks, as you can see, is that with that expanded summer program there from June 28th through August 5th. You can see some of the statistics on the right-hand side in terms of the number of school sites, the number of teachers, and number of students attended there. And new this year was the learning recovery groups. This was a unique offering this summer due to available funding. It primarily served some of our resource students. Those were students with maybe less intensive needs, but they were provided focused academic support in small groups, 2 to 4 days a week for 3 to 5 weeks between June and July. And so we had 58 of our students participating in that program with several teachers and sites being used. We also had adult school in operation because we're coming out of our COVID restrictions. It wasn't quite the same scope, but typically we have multiple programs that are overlapping throughout summer. But this summer there was one program, and the numbers were still pretty strong. We saw diploma participants were about average to high for the 1 month summer session that ran during July. And we also had parent participation in education. Nearly 150 people participating in that, as well as we're able to offer a lifelong fitness community class, serving 333 people in total. And as far as our elementary summer school experience, was concerned, we ran it over 3 school sites. We had, as you can see, Hawthorne, Smith, and Baywood at the coast. We had 542 students that participated, and with a breakdown really with about 149 students at Hawthorne, 170 out on the coast at Baywood, and 223 students at Smith. And we served last year's kindergarten through 5th grade, and this current school year's first through 6th. I think it's important to kind of publicly thank real quickly at this point. There's a lot of people that came together to make this happen. We had Christina Stanford, who was the elementary school principal at all 3 of those sites for the program. We had an ISLA planning team of Chelsea Smiley, Michelle Cass, Jen O'Hagan, Michelle Hopper, being led by Laura Storm, as well as our summer experience consultant, Debbie Blow, along with, of course, all the teachers and support staff at each site who made the elementary experience possible and made it successful. So I think just a big thank you out to all those people for making that happen this year. Here are some demographics. There's just kind of a breakdown of our English learner participation this summer in elementary school. We had 39% of our students participating were English language learners, and 47% were socioeconomically disadvantaged. And the program goals for this summer are, again, we're continuing to kind of reimagine the program, and I think took some big steps in redesigning it this summer. But the goals being to maintain the academic growth in the core subjects and engaging students in safe, relevant, and fun learning experiences. You gotta love that picture there too, right? So our program this year was expanded. We added weeks to the calendar and time to the day. So as you can see there, it was a 6-week program from mid-June through late July. That's a 6-week program. Typically, we used to run a 4-week program, so you can see we expanded its scope. And it ran from 8:30 to 2:30, both snack and lunch provided. Mandy, can you go back 1 slide for me, please? And there were 3 instructional blocks each day. We had a literacy block for 2 hours. We also had a STEAM block for 2 hours. And then we had an enrichment wheel, which was an elective choice that students had for 1 hour. So we had 5 hours of solid daily instruction. And then, of course, 1 hour for recess and lunchtime. So with that enrichment block, teachers were still able to provide some hands-on learning experiences for students while following our COVID guidelines. Oh, wait just a sec, Mandy, I think we lost you.
A technical issue here. Jeff, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Yeah, can you hear me?
Mrs. Roger has a question for you while they're working on that. Marilyn, did you want to ask a question?
I did. Mr. Martin, our elementary summer school participants, were they self-enrolled or were they referred to
They
summer
were,
school?
yeah, great question. They were referred. Yes, it was by invitation.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Okay, I think we're back.
So Mandy, was my microphone was cutting out, I understand?
Your mic was at the beginning, but you've been fine, Jeff, so far. So
Okay.
go ahead. We're on the
there we go.
Yeah, there we go.
One more for me, please, Mandy. There we go. Thank you. So again, we expanded the scope of the program. The enrichment block itself was an elective. They had 2 3-week classes. Some ran continuously for the 6 weeks, but students were given the choice to sign up in, between 2 different elective classes over a 3-week period. There were 47 teachers with 52 different classes offered to students. And I went ahead and listed just some of the offerings there. And you can see some pretty exciting things for people for some of our students to get involved with during that enrichment block.
Hey, Chris.
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry, Evelyn. Jeff, I think we have another question here.
No problem.
Sorry. Mr. Martin, thank you. I wanted to, I had a great time visiting, was able to visit a couple of the sites. And it was a great thing to be able to see such an expanded program. A couple of questions I had. One was, we had a good, I think, a good attendance for the summer school program. But I was wondering that if, the goal is always to try to do improvement. Did you notice any trends about, why, did we have students drop out, or were there reasons? Did the parents go on vacation, or did we have some trends about that, or do you know?
Yeah, great question. We did send out a survey and got feedback from teachers and students. We didn't send it out to families, so which may be something that we can consider moving forward. But summer is always a challenge for some families. We did set out the expectation early that we expected all students to participate in full from start to finish through the program. And so I'm thinking that might have been, difficult for some that might have decided to leave and, for short vacations and come back. But, overall, the percentage of attendance in our summer program was, I think, really strong for summer school. When you look at that percentage of, I believe it's 87%, that's a strong showing. It's lower than the regular school year, but for a summer program, that's something I think we can be proud of. But again, always room for improvement and growth.
Well, I did want to comment that it does seem that this particular summer school experience, we had a higher participation rate than in past. So that is really something to celebrate, and, the design of the program and trying to meet the needs of the families. The other thing is, and this is just kind of moving forward, will we be able to ensure that, to families that we'll be able to have after school care, at all of our sites, moving forward? I know that that's certainly the goal, and we're trying to do that.
Yeah. And I think that's our next step, really is to sit down as a group and begin some of the detailed planning, knowing that that's a need in our community. I think it did help this year to expand the program from 4 hours to 6 hours. Before it ran from 8:30 to 12:30, and now it's an expanded program, which will meet that need a little better. But for sure, that's a point well taken. I think that'll be a part of our planning for next year.
Well, I just want to compliment, because I really saw a lot of the kind of smiling faces beneath masks with students, and in talking with teachers, they felt pretty empowered, the impact that they were having on students. So kudos to everyone for planning and developing the program and implementing it. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, Marilyn. I appreciate it. I think, again, like you said, it's a testament to the people who put all their hard work into making it happen.
I take that as a compliment.
All right, Mandy, if you can, next slide, please. So we did have our reading instruction. We had core instruction provided to really help students develop those most essential literacy skills and giving them plenty of opportunities to read. One of those ways that we did that was by having our libraries open. And so next slide, Mandy, please. Students, the feedback from the students, the surveys that I read, they loved being able to get into our libraries, just not being able to do that for so long. They love those spaces, and students read a lot. You can see 5,282 books were checked out. Remember, we had 542 students. So do the math, that's nearly 10 books per child on average. And to see that, librarians were there 2 to 3 days a week at each site for 16 hours, about 16 hours per week, opening the libraries, giving the students a chance to physically browse the shelves again. And so I just went ahead and put a few quotes in there. I'll let you read some of those on your own. Some quotes and comments from our students and our teachers. Thanks, Mandy. And again, writing workshop, students also got that opportunity to practice writing on a daily basis. We know how important that is. And in addition, Mandy, next slide, you can see we also offered math and science. All grades were taught Unit 8 in elementary school. It's our Bridges math curriculum unit that oftentimes teachers aren't able to get to during the school year with our scope and sequence the way it is. And it's a hands-on unit where students got to apply their math skills and their knowledge to kind of build and design things. So some groups visited our new innovation lab, as you can see there with some of the pictures, to take their work to the next level. So that was an exciting thing to see in action. And we also had our ST Math summer, ST Math program going this summer. Over 500 students participated in ST Math during our elementary sessions. And remember, ST Math is our online math program that we've had for a couple of years now. 49 students reached 100% completion. That may not sound like a lot, but that's really challenging to do this year. They kind of recalibrated it and made it a little more challenging. And students were pretty much meeting their goals for minutes spent each week in the program. And I don't know if you can see the graphic on the right there, but basically, and through second grade, it's about 60, that talks about puzzles, but it equates to about 60 minutes per week, kindergarten through second grade, as well as second through eighth being about 90 minutes. And this speaks to kind of some of the data that Marilyn was speaking to earlier, and it's the attendance. And you can see roughly 95% of elementary students attend school typically during the regular school year. And we had about 87% over the summer, which sounds lower. It is lower, and it sounds like it might be a big difference. But for a summer school program, I think that's something that we can be proud of, and the fact that we've redesigned this so that it's meeting students and teachers' needs. Students and families' needs even more so. So the goal next year will be to boost that even further. Let's take a look at assessment really quick. One of the goals is in summer experience is to reduce that regression or the summer slide as it's known, but it really just to kind of maintain the positive momentum through the summertime for students. And in order to kind of measure the growth, we typically use pre and post-test data to measure student progress. This summer, we were able to get some good data, but we also had some hiccups with our online platforms with integration that made data collection kind of a challenge. So we'll be reporting out our English language arts data from the fall, from the spring, that we're going to use as our pre-test data. And then when we retest here soon, in a couple of weeks for the fall assessments, we'll use that as our post-test data and then report out the growth in September on those key assessments like BAS and FastBridge. The good news is that we were able to maximize that instructional time in the summer. We did have some math data, as you can see in this graph, and we administered this to all of our students, all of our rising first through sixth graders, which are, again, last year's kindergarten through fifth graders. And this was our own district math assessment that was created with only the standards that were shown to be a prerequisite for success in Algebra 1. And so I think that's important. I'll say that again. The math assessment itself included the standards that were shown to be prerequisites for success in Algebra 1, because we know that's a key determinant for students' later success. And so the intervention materials that were used aligned, that were taught to students and supported in the classroom, were aligned to this assessment. So as you can see, we reached nearly 80% proficiency on that post-test at the end, which is a 23% growth. So that's pretty strong, pretty good results there. And finally, I just wanted to highlight something that I saw in action that I thought was kind of a spotlighting a successful habit here, to keep our positive learning environment, to keep our climate strong within our summer experience programs at the elementary school, and that's the positive behavior referrals. It's kind of flipping the trip to the principal's office on its head, so to speak. And this is something that I've done at Sinsheimer in years past, and students get referred for positive behaviors. It's kind of confusing. You actually, for students and for families, but it's a very refreshing thing. This happened this summer where students were referred for positive behaviors, make the phone call home to the parent. They always assume that their child's in trouble, but in fact, you have that positive news to report, and it just helps to build the strong connections with families and keep our classrooms, positive, focused on learning and centered around trust and respect. So I went ahead and put this in there as something that's happening in our summer experience program that I'd like to see continue. So at this point, I can turn it over to Dawn Addis, and she'll take us through both the middle school and high school summer experience programs.
Thank you, Jeff, and thank you, Mandy. And I'll just sneak in one more tidbit of compliment about elementary summer schools. We also had a very experienced EL specialist write up some of the ELD curriculum for that, Elizabeth Abisher, who is just wonderful. In terms of middle school summer experience, I have also more compliments because it was amazing after the year that we had to see the number of kids, the number of teachers, the 2 administrators who stepped up for these programs. So for middle school, we served rising 6th through 8th graders for Los Osos and Laguna Middle School by invitation, so students with unfinished learning. We had about up to 54 students per session per school. So that's where we get about the 200 students. And we focused very much on ELA and math plus enrichment, which I'll tell you about on the next slide. And then I just want to highlight again about the engagement of our staff, the connection of our staff. We had staff that teach during the regular school year that said, can I please teach summer school? I've never taught summer school, but I really want to because I want to keep working with the students in my classroom and help them out this summer. So that was particularly amazing this summer, especially after how hard last year was. And you can move forward, Mandy. For enrichment at Laguna, we had theatrical performance and digital media communication, and then Los Osos was the makerspace and fitness. And this slide also shows you when specifically the sessions were. So we did 2 3-week sessions at each middle school. In the past, we've done 3 2-week sessions. So session 1 was June 21st through July 8th, and then session 2, you can see the dates there. Students were able to come for 1 or both sessions. Nobody was turned away because they couldn't attend for the entire time. And again, it was by invite, and lots of fun going on, even with the social distancing and everything else that we were navigating. And you can move forward, Mandy. So for high school, the program was pretty similar to years past in terms of the sites, the credit options, the programs, the subject areas we offered, but we did have a couple new things. Thanks to Measure D moving along, we were able to be at 4 sites rather than 2 sites. So Los Osos students were able to be on their own campus, Morro Bay students on their own campus, Laguna students and SLO High each on their own campus for the first time in 5 or 6 years. So that was a huge benefit. And in terms of the programs, one of the new things was the Summer Bridge. And that is a 3-week program, 3.5-week program held for incoming 9th graders on the high school campuses. And again, we weren't able to hold these programs for a number of years due to construction. So we were able to bring that program back, and it was very popular. Kids had a lot of fun. And numerous subject areas were offered for A through G credit, which is incredibly important in high school. And as we've done in years past, it was credit recovery. So those students who had an F, grade recovery, students who had a D but wanted to get A through G eligible, and original credit classes. And you can move forward, Mandy. And then finally, the number of kids that came. So for our in-person Summer Bridge, we had close to 30 rising 9th graders that got to get a preview of the high school campuses that they were going to, completed some A through G credits, learned about study skills, algebra concepts, and some hands-on learning. For our in-person credit recovery, which was by invite only due to the COVID restrictions, we had about 60 rising 9th through 12th graders. So these are students who had Fs that they were trying to make up credits for. And then our fully online program was very full again this summer. We had over 350 rising 9th through 12th graders, and that was open to any student. So we were able to serve every student at the high school level who requested high school summer school. And you can see that of the 414 total students, they completed over 875 courses, and students were able to take 1 course or up to 4 courses. And you can move forward, Mandy. So in conclusion, our food service was very busy with over 48,000 meals served across 5 sites and 4 programs. I believe maybe even more sites because we added on the secondaries also had food service. Elementary served over 540 students. Middle school had over 200 students, and high school had over 400 students. So we really reached out to San Luis Coastal families and to San Luis Coastal teachers to make sure that we got as many students as possible into our summer program to address the unfinished learning from last year. And I'll turn it over now to Lara Storm to talk about professional development.
Thank you, Dawn. Good evening. I'm excited to talk about 3 major professional development events we've had going on this August. But before I dive in, I just really want to thank the instructional services team. They have all contributed in different ways to make these things happen, whether it be presenting or helping make sure rooms are set up. So it's really a team effort to pull off these PD events. So Mandy, if you want to move forward. So first time that we've ever tried this, we did something called the Kickstart Conference the first week of August. And it was sort of a choose your own adventure PD, unless you were a new teacher to our district. If you were new to San Luis Coastal, we gave you tracks of sessions to go to, and then other people could pick and choose. So we had 74 sessions, 45 different presenters, mostly from inside of our district, but we did have someone from Avid, someone from our SELPA, 231 attendees. sometime over the course of the week. And most of it was on Zoom. We did some in person. You can see there a picture of our new teachers in the Innovation Lab. They had an orientation to Innovation Lab. So we did sessions like that in person, but the majority of it was on Zoom. And I have some comments from teacher participants that I wanted to share with you. One was, I liked that teachers were able to choose to attend as much or as little as they wanted. I also liked that the presenters were a wide range of teacher experts from our own staff. And then someone else said, I loved the choices and the fact that it was choice-based. At first, I was disappointed that it was on Zoom, but that ended up working out great with childcare and schedules. So we had great feedback on our Kickstart conference with lots of different sessions on all kinds of different topics. So Mandy, if you want to move forward. So last week for 2 days, we hosted Dr. Doug Fisher. He is a professor at San Diego State. He's also a high school teacher, but he is a major education author. And he spent 2 days with us talking about teacher clarity. And really the heart of teacher clarity is making sure teachers and students know the what of what they're learning, right? The why or the relevance of it, and the how. So how will students know that they learned it? And it was a train the trainer model. So we had site instructional leadership teams with administrators, district office TOSAs, and they're going to go back to their sites and work on teacher clarity over the coming years. It's actually really deep, complex work. And it's kind of, Dr. Fisher compared it to sort of an octopus. You start with something and then all of a sudden you're kind of out on something else. And, but it's great work, and it gets us back into our standards and solid, good instruction. And I pulled a couple quotes from participants because they were so good. We had a high school teacher say, great statistics, strategies, and examples. My brain is full from food for thought. And we had a middle school teacher say that was the most implementable PD in my 25 years of education. And an elementary teacher said, excellent presenter and relevant learning. Everyone seemed to really love their 2 days of teacher clarity. And then Mandy, if you want to go to the next slide. So we just this morning finished up Rebound. And Dr. Nancy Fry, along with Dr. Doug Fisher and a couple others, and John Hattie, wrote a book about coming back from the pandemic called Rebound. And so we had Dr. Fry come virtually 2 mornings to talk with us about 6 ways to accelerate learning in building back student agency, taking care of ourselves, the importance of relationships and high expectations. So she was on Zoom, and sites had kind of a setup much like you guys, where you're watching some people on the Zoom, but you're also together. So there was turn-in talks and time for sites to interact around the content that she was presenting virtually. There just was no way with our COVID situation to bring all of our teachers right now into one room to do this. So we had her come that way to present Rebound. And we did our feedback survey today, and I pulled a couple comments for you. So an elementary teacher said, absolutely excellent. Nancy Fry is really on her game. It was so refreshing to have PD that is so relevant. A middle school teacher said, Rebound provided an opportunity to do just that. Rebound from a surreal year. Reminder of how important the human connection is for student success. And then a high school teacher said, excellent reminder of so many things that matter most in education. Relationship building, setting high expectations with less teacher talk and more student active time, collaboration, etc. So our staff really enjoyed Rebound. They felt it was very relevant, timely. And I think probably the most refreshing thing was I don't think they heard anything that was brand new. I think it just gave them what to focus on, those 6 keys for acceleration. What do you really need to do this year with everything going on to move kids academically. So those were our 3 big PD rocks in August. And Mandy, I'm the closing, I think. So I'll turn it over to the board for questions about PD or summer experience and middle and high school summer.
I wanted to mention also that Cabinet divided up school sites, and we spent the last 2 mornings on sites, elementary, middle, and high school, participating in those staff development. And Laura and her team did a fantastic job planning all of this.
Well, thank you. That was really comprehensive. Mr. Buckman, I think you have a question. or a
Yes,
comment.
thanks. Absolutely awesome. Just blown away by the depth of the program and the expansion of the program. I just can't tell you how exciting that is. There was mention of criteria that were used, I think maybe at the elementary level. Jeff, can you maybe share some of what that criteria were? Were?
We're referring to the special education students, the criteria to qualify for the extended school year.
Yeah, so maybe I'm misunderstanding. So as in the elementary level, could any student that want to attend the program, or were they teacher referred, and what was their referral based upon?
Yeah, good. Okay, great question. No, for the general education, the summer experience program, they were invited. So typically it was those students that were in need the most, who needed that accelerated learning experience, who might have not shown the progress, over the last, year and a half through the COVID restrictions. But those are the ones that needed the academic intervention the most. Those were the ones that were referred to the summer experience, the elementary program.
So based on SBAC, on internal assessments?
Yeah, all of the above. Not SBAC necessarily, but mostly just the formative and summative assessments that were given in the classroom. From that data, yeah.
Can I go on, Chris, or shall I?
Of course, go ahead.
Okay, so I just have 2 other questions. So before even you started the program, and now especially since you finished, word is sort of spreading, at least among the community that I'm involved with, and people want to attend, whether they're invited or not. So are we looking at, can we possibly expand this? I think the community's really ready to embrace a summer program.
Yeah, I didn't speak much about that because we're kind of talking about last year's program, but that's the goal. And I'm excited because that's one of the big pillars of my work, moving forward, is to expand the program and do just that, just what you're talking about, to kind of capture this excitement, this enthusiasm that people have for it this year, that they've done a great job of laying the foundation. Now we need to take it to the next level and expand it. And we've got some specific plans for that, but now we need to kind of meet and really solidify the plans moving forward.
And then just lastly, I am not familiar with a high school diploma.
Yeah,
so if you could just tell me what that is, I appreciate it.
I asked the same question, Mark. I really did. I wasn't familiar with it either. And I asked Greg Kramer, who's a bit new to his position now as the TOSA at the secondary level, going to be working with the adult school. And he says that's what they call it. But the instructors go out to the county jail and offer classes for those folks to get their high school diploma. And as you can see, we had some participants that actually were successful in doing that.
So my understanding was the County Office of Ed provided education to the county, to the jail. Has that shifted now to, has not shifted?
It's my understanding is that the county office provides the services to the juvenile court school.
Okay.
But that we're responsible for the adult school portion of it, which is the jail,
adult,
because it's within our district boundaries.
Yep. Great. Yep. Okay. Well, thank you very much. Congratulations.
Other questions from board members or comments? Well, I'm not. Oh, Mrs. Roger.
Yeah, just one comment. I believe it was at the elementary level, the pre and post assessments on English language arts showed incredible gain. I mean, really noteworthy gain. And so congratulations on that.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, this is really exciting stuff. And I think that we know that one of the ways that we can help, what was the word? Learning leaps amongst our students who have unfinished learning is through really strong summer programs. And I know, Dr. Prater, that's something that you've been concerned about and been thinking about for quite a long time. And it's nice to see that we're able to do that now and start doing that.
Yeah, it's amazing what you can do with a good vision, a bold vision, and a great team. A school board that supports that vision and allows that to unfold, and trying to develop this now that we know this is good for kids, and not just for those that are invited, but the ultimate goal is that we care for all our kids through a robust summer program that's engaging, interesting, and has the ability for parents to go to work and not have to worry about where their children are. I'm excited for where it's going. I'm trying to find resources outside of our district to help fund this so it's sustainable. But first, before you can get the attention of donors, it has to be high quality. It has to have credibility. And like you did tonight, it has to be aligned to a vision that the district supports. And that's what this is about. I'm really excited to see it take off.
Well, and
Chris,
did we use some of our CARES Act money to fund this as well?
We did.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're doing, Chris.
And, I think sometimes people ask, what are we doing with the CARES Act money? The $12 million one-time money that we received over the next 3 years. And this is a shining example of how we've really focused on learning, on the things that Mrs. Sheffer so eloquently talked about earlier in the meeting. Mr. Buckman?
Just so I thank you very much, Chris, because the part of the question was going to be, where do we get the money? The second part was on the jail high school diploma program specifically. Do we get money from the state from that, or is that now coming out of our general fund? I don't need an answer tonight.
Yeah, I'd have to look for that.
Yeah, that's not a problem, but I'd be interested. Thank you.
Okay, I will.
Okay. Well, that was very interesting. I think we're ready to move on to 7.03, multi-tiered system of supports, update number 1, achievement. Back to you, Mr. Mayfield.
Yes, thank you. As you're aware, a major goal in our LCAP this year is our multi-tiered system of support, our MTSS program. And we're going to give the board regular updates during the school year on our progress. And we're going to begin tonight with academic achievement. And again, Laura Storm, she's got wearing a lot of hats this year. MTSS is one of them and has done a fantastic job to assemble a plan, to assemble a team, conduct professional development already with our teachers. And she's going to share our first update with the board tonight. Laura.
Good evening. I'm so excited to share the work that we have been doing. Mandy, do you want to share? Thank you. The work that we have been doing, we really kicked it off into high gear at the tail end of last school year, getting ready for this year. So Mandy, if you want to go ahead for me. So just a quick reminder on what is MTSS, or multi-tiered systems of support. It's a system. It's just a lens for viewing supports. It's not a time in the day. We're not having MTSS time. Students aren't tier 1 students or tier 2 students. It's just a way to view things and a lens to look at how we support students. And then it's academic and social, emotional, behavioral. So tonight you're hearing about achievement. I believe then your next MTSS report is around SEL. And I think you'll have one about I Innovate as well. So we created this pyramid over here to sort of talk about what we have in San Luis Coastal with our tiers. And you'll see there in tier 1, the 2 most important things, a safe, nurturing environment and first best instruction. So we called those out in nice big print because without those two things, the things above it don't really matter. So we're really focused there on those two for tier 1. Mandy, you want to go ahead? So what we know, we've talked about this already tonight, but our students have unfinished learning. Our achievement gap has widened. We need to make some learning leaps, and we know the answer is acceleration, not remediation. If we take a 4th grader and put them back into 3rd grade curriculum, we are never going to get where we need to go. So it's all about acceleration versus that remediation. Mandy, you want to go ahead? So I just pulled some quick data trends for you. I compared kindergarten reading in the spring versus what our kindergartners typically leave with. And we were down about 25% of kindergartners that are reading on grade level. So usually about 75 to 80% of our kindergartners leave kindergarten reading at or above grade level. And end of last school year, it was more around 50%. 1st grade reading, same comparison, it was down about 10%. And then you heard earlier that we're going to get some of our SBAC data or CASP. And right now it's very preliminary, but it looks like language arts is down about 10% and math is down about 13% from pre-COVID. So we know we have unfinished learning. I do love this, like, let's stop the learning loss narrative, because kids didn't go from being 8th grade readers to being like 4th grade readers. They were 8th grade readers and they kind of just stalled out at 8th grade reading. So they're just unfinished. You want to go ahead, Mandy?
Mrs. Frame, Mrs. Storm, Mrs. Frame has a question for you.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mr. Unger. I can't really see the group. Yep, Mrs. Frame.
Yes, Mrs. Storm, thank you. Could you go back to the previous slide? Because it sparked a question that I was.
Yeah.
When we were looking at these, and I know it's really preliminary, is it too preliminary for you to begin to see trends within subgroups, or this is just, you're right now just beginning to see just very preliminary general trends? Are you?
Yeah, the state says that they haven't even completely finished scoring, although I'm not really sure I believe them, to be honest. And so preliminary, it doesn't seem to, they say that and then it doesn't seem to change much. That's why I say that. But preliminary, yeah, we didn't pull out subgroups or anything. There was one school that was missing, a good chunk of data that wasn't in. So it just seemed a little early for that.
Okay.
But just first glance, this is kind of what we see.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
Go ahead, Laura.
Okay, so the how. We have evidence-based decision-making, elementary MTSS teachers, intentional scheduling, support staff, and I always come back to tier 1, those things in the big print, the caring environment and the first best instruction. So let's dive into these 5 hows. Mandy, you want to go ahead? So evidence-based decisions, that's really just good data, good evidence. We are about to do universal screening here in the end of August, beginning of September. Remember last year I talked about the whole notion of going to the dentist. We're back on that universal screening. We're going to do kinder through 11th grade reading in Fastbridge. And then math, we're doing kindergarten through 11th grade. That looks a little bit different. We have some screeners from our curriculum bridges for elementary. And then in 7-11, we're going to do the MDTP, or Math Diagnostic Testing Project. It's just a readiness assessment. And it really informs tier 1 and tier 2. So we may find out we have big gaps that are so large we need to address in tier 1, or we need to do some work with tier 2 and small groups and things like that. And then this year we are really going to ramp up progress monitoring. FastBridge has an awesome tool where you can do progress monitoring and it'll give you a trend line and you can see if the student is making expected progress. So evidence-based decisions. Mandy, you want to move ahead? And then MTSS teachers. So we have MTSS teachers at all of our elementary sites except for Teach. The Title I schools have one MTSS teacher, and the non-Title I schools have a 0.5 MTSS teacher. And at those 0.5 schools, they're typically doing another role, perhaps EL specialist, or they are an individual who only wants to work part-time. So we don't have MTSS teachers that are sharing school sites. That gets really tricky. They're a teacher leader on their site. We brought them in June and did 3 days of really intense training. We have been meeting with them pretty regularly. We saw them like a week ago. We have a Zoom check-in tomorrow. And then throughout the school year, we'll be meeting with MTSS teachers, especially when universal screening is over, because they're going to have their data. They're going to need to help with that group formation and what to do with the data and what's next. They also are going to be working on the sites delivering intervention. I've talked to them about seeing what I said was your trickiest kids. You as the MTSS teacher are, the most expert teacher. You have a lot of skills. You need to see those tricky kids. And like I said, they were trained in June and it'll be ongoing. And they've really formed a nice network already, working with each other and the MTSS TOSAs to really lead efforts on the sites. So these past 2 days, they've been in front of the staff talking about what is MTSS? What are we doing this year? How does it look different? So really starting to take that leadership role. Mandy, you want to go to the next slide? So intentional scheduling. We are trying something called WIN time, and it stands for what I need. And it's really not all that earth-shattering, but we have designed our tier 2 literacy pullout blocks by grade level. So all of the second graders that are going to go to literacy intervention leave at the same time. We don't want kids coming in and out. So they're all gone at the same time, which leaves the classroom teacher with a smaller amount of kids in the room. And we've talked about, you can't be teaching core while students are out of the room, or the literacy intervention won't work because it's not a true second dose. It's just replacing the core instruction. So we are going to try what I need time. So the classroom teacher is going to use that time to really address student needs. So small group reading, small group math, one-on-one conferencing, goal setting conferences, could be an SEL group if they're seen as a group of students that have a specific social emotional need. It could be students that are reading far above grade level, that are having a book club. So it's really 30 minutes of looking at who is in the classroom and what do I need to target with them, and doing some groups and stations and things to meet those needs while part of the class is out at literacy pullout. We have instructional assistants that are going to push in for math support. Something interesting that happens in elementary is teachers often say, I want to do guided math groups, which is basically targeted math instruction. I want to do these guided math groups, but it's so hard because the rest of the class has to be independent. And a lot of times they're playing math games or working on ST math, and then they're not truly independent. The group gets interrupted. The teacher can't do what they want to do, and it's frustration. So we have instructional assistants pushing in for math that can monitor and support the rest of the class while the teacher is pulling those small groups, so they can truly get in and meet those math needs in the classroom. And then we will, of course, be adjusting based on universal screening. And one of the things for 7th through 11th grade is Mr. O'Connor and I are going to meet with every admin team, look at their universal screening data, talk about what do you want to do next, and do you need to change any schedules? Do you have any students that are just not in the right course? So we're going to use this data to make some actionable decisions quickly and more long-term. Mandy, you want to move forward for me? So here's an example of what it could look like at elementary, because we've heard a lot of, well, wait, what is this whole push in and win time? So this would be a typical morning. You see you have like a phonics lesson, reading, your social emotional learning with second step, bridges math, lunch. Mandy, you want to move forward? And then in the afternoon, you see here, we move into this math push-in block where the teacher's doing the guided math groups and the students are maybe doing math workplaces. Those are the games, or ST math, or maybe some other independent math tasks the teacher has. And then here is the win time. So we have students going to the literacy pullout intervention, and then the rest of the class is getting what they need from the teacher. Eventually, my hope is that grade levels will begin to work together and say, okay, these students are gone at literacy pullout. There's 2 of us. There's 37 kids left. How do we want to do this? And work as a grade level team to do win time and move kids around. But for right now, we're just focusing on in your own classroom, what can you do, right? One step at a time, but that's my big vision. So Mandy, will you move forward for me? So support staff, you're probably wondering, how are we going to get this all done? We are hiring academic intervention teachers. They are certificated hourly teachers. They used to be called LLI teachers. We've changed the name to broaden their scope and to bring some more definition to their role. We have hired about 30 of them. We were pretty well staffed. We have a couple of vacancies that occurred because we needed to fill full-time classroom positions, and those people were selected. But you maybe saw I was advertising in the employee bulletin and the community bulletin, and applications are still rolling in. So I think we will get our AITs filled, and we're already very close. I feel really good about it. And then we have classified instructional aides, and they work a 6.5-hour day. Some sites have added on like playground supervision in the middle to make their day longer, or some after school things, starting them later. We're getting creative with schedules, and we have about 22 of them. And we are, I think maybe you have one more to hire, and HR is like on the brink. So we are doing pretty well with staffing all of this, but it definitely has been an effort. And I have to give a huge shout out to our human resources department. I think they see me coming and run the other way because we have hired so many people with MTSS this year. Mandy, you want to move forward? So tier 1, I always say our best intervention is first best instruction. So we continue to really focus on that. Mrs. Gould is really focusing on that caring, safe classroom and school environment with the social and emotional learning. So we have the professional development that we've done this August. You've already heard about that. And then we're going to continue working with teacher clarity. Like I said, it's really deep work. It's thoughtful work. And the leadership team members are going to be going back to their sites and really leading that effort. Mandy, you want to move forward? And our last slide, I just thought I would put this in here because we've been talking about it all night. Our focus should be on learning leaps rather than learning loss. So we hope to make a lot of really great leaps this school year. I think we're really poised to do so, and we have a lot of really great support thanks to you and to our cabinet team, and of course all of our COVID funding that's coming in is helping with that as well. So I think we're in a great position to move forward. So thank you for having me tonight to talk about MTSS.
Great. Questions or comments from board members? Mrs. Roger.
There we go. Hi, Mrs. Storm.
Hi.
Going back to slide number 3, what we know. Bullet point 4 says acceleration, not remediation. And I wonder if you could explain how that works, particularly with regard to mathematics that's built, step upon step upon step. So when something is missed,
Yep.
it creates problems downstream.
Absolutely. So I found out something really fascinating last week. We spend 40% of our time teaching things kids already know. And so what we are being charged with is really being intentional about finding out what they do and don't know before we launch into a unit. So I mentioned the math screeners. We have our curriculum has developed in elementary has developed these wonderful unit pre-screeners, and they're 5 items or less. And so the teacher gives it right before the start of the unit and can see these students don't have this concept. And if they don't have this, they won't be successful in the unit. I need to pull them when the IA is pushing in and work with them on this. So the idea is, instead of going back and reteaching like all of 3rd grade math, you have to find out what those holes are and address them right before they need them. If you wait too long, then there's that, they could maybe forget or lose it. So it's about just in time supports. I think that's a little trickier at secondary, but we will get good data from that math diagnostic that'll tell us a little bit about strengths and weaknesses in different strands. And teachers can maybe make some adjustments based on that. But we're feeling really fortunate in elementary to have those pre-screeners to really be able to target down to specifically which kids know what, and if they don't, what can we do about it? So.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Other questions from the board? Well, I'm not seeing anything else, but thank you very much. Again, this is so interesting. And, I just love the idea of learning leaps. I love the idea of that sort of just-in-time instruction. And again, I'll bet you that this is part of the $12 million CARE money that we have. And looking at, I appreciated what you were saying, Dr. Prater, looking for successes that we can demonstrate can be replicated, and the effects they have on kids. So thank you all very much. We appreciate it. We appreciate your sticking with us this late at night.
No
I think we
problem.
need to
Thank
move
you.
on to item number 7.04, which is an action item. It's approval of the 2021-2022 consolidated application. Mr. Mayfield.
Yes, hello again. The consolidated application is just that. It's an application for federal funds, titles 1, 2, 3, and 4. As you know, we have 6 elementary Title I schools with over 40% of the population that qualifies for Title I, and 1 secondary school, Pacific Beach High School. Title II is for teacher improvement and largely for professional development. Title III is English learner funds, and then Title IV is a very small pool of funds, but it's a kind of a catch-all of enrichment, anti-alcohol and tobacco education, as well as technology use. Traditionally, we do the consolidated application, or the CONAP, twice a year. Once in February is a preliminary report, and the state asks for previous year's budget reports and how we expended those funds. And then they ask for numbers, usually like our CBED numbers from October, official census data from October. And then we do another spring follow-up. This particular year, and they didn't explain why, but the state pushed that out to a July 15th due date. So we worked in June and July to finish the consolidated application. And then, of course, they were aware that the board wouldn't meet until August, all up and down the state. And so we were allowed to put tonight down as the approval date of the consolidated application. But that was submitted midsummer. along with some official assurances that we reach out to our private school neighbors. We're responsible for providing Title I through IV funds to any students within our boundaries that qualify and that attend private schools. We meet with those schools in May, review the procedures and policies, and then it's my job to make sure that those expenditures fit with the definitions of Title I through IV expenditures. And so in front of you tonight for approval is the consolidated application for federal funding for this current school year.
And before we go on with that, this is an action item, so we do need to go to the public. Mrs. Dawson, is there anyone from the public that would like to address the board on this item? Remember, if you do want to address the board, please use your Zoom hands up icon. Seeing no one, I'll bring it back to the board. Mrs. Roger, I think you had your hand up.
Thank you. The consolidated application is a very large and weighty document that represents a lot of work on the part of our instructional services department. But that notwithstanding, it's something that we routinely see, and it is for the board rather a pro forma. We routinely approve it. So if there is no board discussion, then I would move approval of the consolidated application.
Okay, we have a motion. Ms. Dobler-Drew. We have a motion by Mrs. Roger, a second by Ms. Dobler-Drew. More discussion, Mr. Buckman.
Sure. On page 10 is part A of the homeless expenditures. And I recognize the amount of work that went into this, but I do have some questions. I just need some help understanding the numbers on this page. To me, it looked like that we had $700,000 and spent 6,000. And I don't think that's accurate, but I do need some help understanding.
There are statutory numbers of how much we need to spend on homeless students, and we, follow those guidelines, of course. And then there are many other ways that we support homeless students because they belong to many different categories. So if a homeless student is an English learner, they're funded under that as well. If they're qualify as a Title I student, they're funded that way as well. But these are specific actions that Mr. Dowler, especially being in charge of our homeless education program for the district, uses to focus on that population of students.
Okay, so let me ask this a different way. Did we get $700,000?
Not specifically for homeless. That's $700,000 of our title money, that our total title money.
Okay.
And a percentage of that needs to be dedicated to homeless students.
And just for me, I couldn't get the explanation to scroll up, so I couldn't really read it. So I apologize for some of these questions, but I just couldn't figure it out.
I can get you all of that text if you.
Thanks. I just need more to read. Let me see. On page 12, I'm just going to need some help. This is about charter schools. There was a statement, I think, here about a direct funded charter school, and it was left blank. And so I'm just wondering, what is a direct funded charter school? I don't know.
Mr. Pinkerton, can you help me out with that one?
I think Bellevue Santa Fe used to be a direct funded charter school, but now they're on their own. They're an independent charter school now. So I think that's why it's a little different than it's been.
Okay, that's great. And then probably, sorry, here it is. Page 14. Page 14. Title III immigrant status.
Yeah.
Are we, and it says no.
We do not receive immigrant funds because we don't have the requisite population of students who would qualify for those funds. And if we did at any time, we would apply for that funding as well.
Okay. So those are my questions, Chris. I find this to be an amazing document. And every year it just intrigues me so much to see the federal money that's coming into the district and then the explanation about how we use it.
Great. Okay, well, thank you. We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board. I'm going to start over here this time. Mrs. Roger, Mrs. Sheffer, Dr. Eisendrath Rogers, Mr. Buckman,
Yes.
Mrs. Frame,
Yes.
Ms. Dobler Drew,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. We need to move to item 7.05. Approve increases to unrepresented employees' salary schedule. This is also an action item. Mr. Block.
Good
Welcome,
evening.
Mr. Block, by the way.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. So the format of this changed. More of the positions are listed out, and that was a CalPERS and STRS requirement. But in addition to that, a few changes that I want to highlight for you today. Our daily rate for going down to the certificated substitutes went up slightly, so $135 a day. The $150 is a change that we're proposing. So after they're in an assignment for 20 days, or they're in any assignment in our district for 20 days, their sub rate goes up to $150. So kind of a loyalty. We're going to have a heck of a time with substitutes this year as we've hired a whole lot of people. Our surrounding districts are. So we're trying to make our district as attractive as we can for substitutes.
Mr. Block, I just had a quick question when you were talking about that. If the 20 days, is that consecutive or?
No, just 20 days.
Okay.
So below that, Mrs. Frame, you see the long-term substitute teacher. So that's where a teacher's in for 31 days. And the 31 is a key number because anybody with an emergency credential can do 30. They can't do more than that. So 31 would be a credentialed teacher filling a long-term assignment. In the past, we've moved those employees to like a temporary contract, and that 250 is about what they'd be making a day. So it's less processing for the HR department, but it's also, they see it in print and then it's consistent across different jobs. Another small change, the paraeducator 2, again, similar to we talked about with teachers, 20 days of service in any assignment, they get a small bump there. And then lastly, you heard Ms. Storm talking about the academic intervention teacher. That's listed on here as it's a new position. So our unrepresented group, those are some of the changes for this school year.
Mrs.
Proposed changes.
Mrs. Frame, did you have any more questions? Mrs. Roger?
Mr. Block, I just wanted to be sure I understood in terms of the substitutes, if we have a teacher teaching on an emergency credential.
Yeah.
They can teach 30 days and no more in any given academic year?
No, just in that same assignment in the one classroom. So they can still go to different assignments throughout the year.
Okay.
They just, in that one. So if it's a 5th grade at Bishop's Peak, they can only be in that assignment for 30 days. They can't be in that classroom again.
I understand. Thank you.
Okay. Other questions from the board?
Yes, please.
Mr. Buckman.
Thank you. First, trial by fire, huh?
Yeah.
Welcome to the job. When we look at the substitutes, I've heard this rumor that we pay less for subs than other districts. Can you help me with that, or does this get us up somewhere different?
Yeah, I analyzed that. I don't think that's a true statement.
Thank you.
We analyzed this. Last year is a tricky year because our district included and added those COVID incentives for coming back in person. So for 1 year, I do know that other districts are looking at their sub pay, but this would put us above other districts in our area.
Thank you. Looking for a motion?
Sure.
I'd like to make.
Go ahead, Mark. I'm sorry.
I'd like to make a motion to approve. I'm not sure. I apologize.
You know what, Mark, before you do, we need to go to the public because this is an action item. I'll hold that thought. Let's go to the public. Mrs. Dawson, is there anyone because this is an action item, is there anyone from the public who would like to address us on it? Seeing no one, I'll bring it back. Mr. Buckman.
Yes, I'd like to move the approval of the increases to the unrepresented employee salary schedule.
Okay. Who would like to second that? Second by Mrs. Sheffer. Oh, sure. Well, yeah, I'll come back. So we have a motion and a second. And now further discussion, Mrs. Roger.
Mr. Block, I'm just noticing that there are several unrepresented positions here that are paying $14.50, $14. What is the minimum wage?
So some of these will have to change when it rises. So some of these will be bringing something back mid-year. We have to set these so they're at or above the minimum wage at this time.
And what is the current minimum wage? Do you know?
I don't know off the top of my head. I think it's, the 15 is the
It's
goal.
moving to 15, but I don't know when.
I think I think it's at 14 now, and then the last jump will be to 15.
Mr. Pinkerton, do you know when it jumps?
I think it's January.
So this schedule will be revised to reflect
Exactly.
state law.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So we have a motion and a second. Is there any other further discussion? Okay, I'll bring it back to the board for a vote. Mr. Buckman, Mrs. Sheffer, Mrs. Roger, Ms. Dobler-Drew,
Yes.
Mrs. Frame, Dr. Eisendrath Rogers.
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Motion carries 7-0. Let's go to item 7.06, Measure D, Design Build Modification Number 9, setting the GMP for Morro Bay High School Building C demolition and abatement. I believe that would be Mr. Pinkerton.
Yeah, so Ms. Dawson, if you'll pull up modification number 9, Morro Bay High School Building C demo and abate. And then if you'll go to the very bottom, the third page. So as I mentioned earlier at the meeting, this is building C, which is the last classroom building. So currently, we'll be bringing the board the GMP to do the construction on the A building, which is the theater, cafeteria, as Dr. Prater alluded to earlier as well. But this is basically the demo and abatement. So we're talking about a $9 million, give or take, construction project. And so the abatement for this, which basically they go in and they gut the building. So gut all the classrooms, get rid of all the any asbestos tile, flooring, any of those types of things that might be harmful, which is really another added benefit that I would say. From a school district standpoint, that as we've gone through and modernized all of our buildings, and as we go through and have new construction, we are doing basically all asbestos abatement throughout those buildings. So long term, much healthier, much better environment for everyone. So we, again, multiple bids for this. You will see some allowances. And so a couple of those areas are places where we've asked the contractor to go back, and I mean, we know we have bids for that amount, but if we want to have more bids or ask them to go back to bid on things, there are a couple of those. In particular, the plumbing would be one that stood out when we received this GMP, that we asked them for more bids. And why we're asking the board to just approve the allowance at this point, because we will go ahead and move forward with construction. Some of the other ones are kind of just miscellaneous. And again, when you're modernizing, when you're going through a building that you don't really know until you open up the walls, there's things that are going to be unforeseen, right? So a relatively small 5% for contingencies in these bids, but I would expect that by the time we're done, we'll actually be under GMP for this, based on some of those allowances. Mr. Holcomb and Mr. Vaughn are also on the meeting tonight. So if the board has any questions, all three of us are here to answer those for you.
Well, first of all, because this is an action item, let's go to the public to see if the public has any comment on this. Mrs. Dawson, is there anyone from the public that would like to comment on this? Okay, seeing no one, I'll bring it back to the board. Does the board have any questions about this? Okay, then I would like to entertain a motion to, for action on item 7.06. Would someone like to make?
I'd like to make that motion to approve the modification number 9 to the design build on contract with Acme Construction.
So we have a motion by Mrs. Sheffer, a second by Dr. Eisendrath Rogers. Any further discussion or question? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board. Mrs. Sheffer?
Yes.
Dr. Eisendrath Rogers? Mr. Buckman? Mrs. Frame? Mrs. Dobler Drew?
Yes.
Mrs. Roger? And I'm a yes, motion carries 7-0.
And Mr. Unger, just really quick, for the public to know, we spent about 3 hours, I think, in the study session last Thursday reviewing a lot of this information. So I don't want them to think that you just make these quick decisions. This was very thorough, going over everything with the board. So thank you.
Item 7.07, intent to apply for an English learner authorization waiver. Mr. Block, and this is also an action item.
Yes, we are requesting the board approve this application for an English learner authorization from Mr. Wendorf. He's at Morro Bay High School engineering teacher. He's a new hire for us. Mr. Wendorf holds a preliminary CTE credential in engineering and architecture based on his work experience. Preliminary CTE credentials do not have an authorization to teach English learners. When he clears his credential, he will be granted the appropriate authorization.
Okay, and again, this is an action item. Mrs. Dawson, is there anyone from the public? Seeing no one, I'll bring it back to the board. Mrs. Roger.
Mr. Block, until he clears his credential, presumably he will be working, since this individual and the one that follows presumably will be working with the English learners. How do we intend to to make that work?
For CTE, their requirements are different. They actually don't go through that same EL authorization that a credential program does. Their credential, actually, they get a SEDI training during this year. And so they're not in charge of that English language development part as part of those courses, but they will learn techniques this first year during this credentialing program or during this this program that they're in.
So they don't have to be clad, is that what it's called? Or
precisely, they different requirements. The B clad maybe.
But they still will be working with English learners.
Yes.
And do we anticipate they'll be able to do that effectively?
We do.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Block, could you, I don't know if you or someone can explain the difference between CLAD and the SEDI training you're talking about, because I think they're two different things, aren't they?
They are. That's I'm looking for Mr. Mayfield behind me for that one. Of course, I don't know how many years I'm looking for somebody over there. Do you want to jump in on over there? The CLAD or
I have the B clad.
Sorry, what? Oh, I was wondering where that voice came from. Ms. Dover.
Eve has a B clad.
Sorry. Yeah, so you have a B clad,
Mhm.
and the B clad is the bilingual credential.
Right.
And Mrs. Frame, you have a B clad as well, don't you? But then there's also CLAD.
Yeah.
That's
and then there's
without,
SEDI.
clad is without speaking the native language. Okay.
So I misspoke on the B clad. The CLAD is the training that our teachers go through in order to get the authorization for the credentials. Many of our teachers, experienced teachers, went back and got that authorization. Probably it's going back about 20 years when that went through. And SEDI is training for meeting the needs of our English learners. It's a different methodology.
And not a certificated program
Yeah.
like the CLAD program and the B clad program are.
Yeah.
And many of our schools still do SEDI training just to keep up with meeting the needs of their students at their school.
Okay. Did that answer your question, Mrs. Roger?
I believe it was your question, Mr.
Well, I mean,
Unger, but yes, I do
Are you
understand.
Are you sat? No, I'm just curious. Are you satisfied?
Yeah.
Because you had originally started with the question about, is this person going to be able to teach it? And I
Effectively,
think
yeah.
Mr. Block was kind of throwing around some acronyms here that I wanted to make sure perhaps people watching could understand.
I love a good acronym, and I caught all of those. Thank you.
Beth Summers is also on the line. She can help if needed.
Okay. Well, we won't bug Beth right now. Is there anybody from the board that would like to have further discussion on this, or would someone like to make a motion?
I will.
Okay, motion.
I'll move approval of, hang on one second, let me see where I am here. This is the first one, 7.07. I think I'll just stop at that. I move approval of item 7.07.
I'll say.
We have a motion for 7.07 and a second by Mr. Buckman. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board. Mrs. Roger? Mr. Buckman? Ms. Dobler-Drew?
Yes.
Ms. Frame? Dr. Eisendrath Rogers?
Yes.
Mrs. Sheffer? And I'm a yes. That carries 7-0. Item 7.08. I think we almost heard this before.
Yeah, slightly different here. We ask that the board approve the application for an English learner authorization waiver for Mr. Burton, and he's getting a transportation certificate. He is the Morro Bay High School auto shop teacher. So Mr. Burton holds the preliminary credential on transportation based on experience. Preliminary credentialing will be cleared this year, and his EL authorization will follow.
This is an action item. Is there anyone from the public that would like to address this? Mrs. Dawson. Okay, I'll bring it back. There is no one. I'll bring it back to the board. Is there any board discussion? Someone like to make a motion? Ms. Dobler-Drew?
I make a motion that the board approve the application for an English learner authorization waiver for Mr. Burton.
Perfect. Second by Marilyn. Any further discussion? All right, Ms. Dobler-Drew,
Yes.
Ms. Roger, Mrs. Sheffer, Dr. Eisendrath Rogers, Mr. Buckman, Mrs. Frame, and I'm a yes. Motion carries 7-0. Next is item 7.09. This is proposed revisions to board policy 1312.1, complaints concerning district employees, first reading. I believe Mrs. Frost, you'll be presenting this.
Yes, I actually have a series of
Right.
board policies that we'll run
Yep.
through. And I just want to remind the board that when we go through this process, our department directors will receive board policies that are pertinent to their department, and they will give us feedback. We have a board subcommittee. 2 of your board members sit and we go over the board policy and we give feedback as well. We get legal recommendations, and then it's in Friday Focus. So this is a first reading for 1312.1. This is revisions. It's not a new board policy, complaints concerning district employees. Just a couple of changes in here, and I'll just highlight it a few. It talks about appeals and the board's role in that. It talks about anonymous requests and how we will handle that as a district. A little bit about superintendent and district complaints as well. And I would recommend that this return for a second reading.
Okay. This is an action item. Ms. Dawson, is there anybody from the public that would like to address this? Is it the board's desire that this be brought back for a second reading? Okay, this will be brought back for a second reading. 7.10, proposed new board policy 4112.9, 4212.9, 4312.9, employee notifications. This is a first reading. Back to you, Mrs. Ross.
Thank you. This is a new board policy, as Mr. Unger says. It talks about our mandatory notifications, talks about our duty to inform our staff and to sign acknowledgement of their understanding. So again, I recommend a second reading.
Okay, Mrs. Dawson, is there anyone from the public? Seeing no one, I'll bring it back to the board. Board, do you desire to have questions or you desire to bring this back as a second reading? Okay, we'll bring this back as a second reading. 7.11, proposed new board policy 4133.5, 4213.5, 4313.5, working remotely, first reading.
Very good, thank you. And again, this is a new board policy. Talks about working remotely, which is obviously very timely. Gets into some detail, work hours and availability, the materials and supplies that the district might provide their availability during the day, and the idea that it's at the district's discretion. And again, I would recommend that this comes back for a second reading.
Mrs. Dawson? No one from the public? Is it the board's desire that we bring this back for a second reading? Okay, good. 7.12, proposed new board policy, 4218.1, dismissal, suspension, disciplinary action. This is a merit system board policy. This is also a first reading.
Thank you. Yes, a brand new board policy looks at disciplinary actions in our classified ranks, definitely considers the Personnel Commission and talks about ensuring due process of all of our staff who find themselves in this situation. I would definitely say come back for a second reading.
Okay. Mrs. Dawson? No one from the public wishes to address us on this? Bring it back to the board. Board, is it again your decision to bring this back for a second reading? Okay, we'll bring this one back for a second reading. 7.13, proposed revisions to board policy 5113.1, chronic absence and truancy. This is our first reading. Mrs. Frost.
Thank you. And this is revisions to an existing board policy. A number of details in here, but the things that I would highlight is that it requires us to develop a tiered approach to decrease absences, chronic absences, that type of thing. Talks about trauma-informed perspective when we're working with our students who have these kinds of absences, and also ask for an annual board update about attendance data. So again, I'd bring this back for a second reading.
Mrs. Dawson, is there anyone from the public that would like to address us? Okay, seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board. Ms. Dobler-Drew, followed by Mrs. Frame.
So this would be taken care of under that cultural focus number 3, cultural care, wouldn't it?
It would be. This is something that would fall beautifully under that item.
Mrs. Frame.
Yeah, I just, as I was reading this, in the third paragraph, the superintendent or designee established, is there a word missing? Just the superintendent or designee, it's the third paragraph.
Oh. Shall establish, you're right. I do think we're missing a word there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Buckman, did you have a comment? Okay. Mrs. Roger. Did I go to the public yet?
Chris,
Okay, well, let's go to the public and.
Chris, I do have a question.
Okay, Mrs. Roger first and then Mr. Buckman. Okay. Right, hold on just a second, Mr. Buckman.
Yeah, sure.
Mrs. Dawson, I don't know if I can't remember if I went to the public. So is there anyone from the public that would like to address this? No. Mr. Buckman?
Yeah, I appreciate Evelyn finding that, but I want to be cautious about using the word shall.
Thank you.
It really has a bunch of ramifications. I might suggest will, but maybe we need to check the code on this one. I just want to be cautious about the word shall.
Thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
I can look into that and get back to the board.
Okay, thanks.
Appreciate that.
So is it the board's preference that we bring this back for a second reading with the research that you're going to do on the wording shall versus maybe perhaps will?
Mhm.
Okay, and the addition of the word that or the conversation that we had with Mrs. Frank. Okay, good.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll bring that back for a second reading. 7.14, proposed new board policy 6159.1, procedural safeguards and complaints for special education. This again is a first reading.
Thank you. And again, a new board policy, safeguards and special education, really looks at our FAPE obligation. So our free and appropriate public education talks a lot about early informal resolution of complaints. So before the due process. Also talks a little bit about CDE complaints versus due process complaints. And I would recommend this comes back for a second reading.
Mrs. Dawson. There's no one from the public that wishes to address the board on this. Is it the board's pleasure that we bring this back for a second reading? Okay, we'll bring this one back for a second reading. And last but not least, 7.15, proposed new board policy 6159.2, non-public, non-sectarian school and agency services for special education.
Very good. Thank you. Again, a new board policy. This is for that very rare situation where a student is, it is found that the student is most appropriately placed in a non-public setting. This board policy requires us to look at our local guidelines through our SELPA. It requires us to make sure that the placement is certified by the state of California. And it also calls for that placement to be an IEP team decision and documented in the IEP. And I would say that this should come back for a second reading as well.
Mrs. Dawson? Or anyone from the public? Okay, seeing none, is it the board's again pleasure to bring this back for a second? Okay, the board agrees this will be brought back for a second reading. All right, thank you very much. Let's move on to our action consent agenda. Please let me know if you'd like an item pulled. Item 8.01, approval of minutes for June 15th. 8.02, approval of minutes July 15th. 8.03, approval of minutes August 3rd. 8.04, approval of minutes August 12th. Okay, I'm losing it. Hold on. 8.04, and who pulled that? Everyone? Okay. 8.05, acceptance of donations.
Pull. Please.
8.06, approval of certificated and classified personnel items. 8.07, approval of furniture and equipment requests. 8.08, approval of purchase orders and CalCard purchases. 8.09, approval of warrants and payroll. 8.10, approval of warrants and payroll, July 21. The first one was June 21. And 8.11, approved quarterly report on uniform complaint filings. Okay, I'll bring it back to the board. This is an action item. Mrs. Dawson, is there anyone who would like to address the board on items 8.01 to 8.03 and 8.06 to item 8.11? Okay, seeing no one, I'll bring it back to the board for a motion.
I'll move approval.
Move approval by Mr. Buckman. Second by Mrs. Sheffer. Mrs. Sheffer, Mr. Buckman, Ms. Dobler-Drew.
Yes.
Ms. Frame, Dr. Eisendrath Rogers, Mrs. Roger, and I'm a yes. Motion carries 7-0. 8.04, Mrs. Frame.
Yes, I just wanted noted that I was absent on that. So.
Okay. So. Okay.
I'll move approval of that item with the correction.
So that is a correction. Okay, thank you. Okay, so we have a motion by Mr. Buckman. Second by Mrs. Roger. Is there anyone from the public that would like to address us on 8.04? No one? Bring it back. Dr. Eisendrath Rogers. Ms. Dobler-Drew. Mrs. Frame.
Yes.
Mr. Buckman. Mrs. Roger. Mrs. Sheffer. And I'm a yes. Motion carries 7-0. 8.05, Mr. Buckman.
Yes, I've noticed that there's been a decrease in donations as we go through this COVID crisis. But I also have a question. This comes to the board each board meeting, or at least every other board meeting, and we vote on it. So do all donations need to be approved by the board? Are we voting just recognizing the ones that come to us? I'm just dawned on me. I'm not sure why we vote on this.
I think twofold. One, I think it's good for the board to be able to acknowledge and, and show, thank you basically to the donations that you see. So that's probably the main reason why it comes in front of the board. But you're seeing all of them. So donations that come in, that come to the school district, they all come forward to the board. And so it could be every meeting. Sometimes it might skip a meeting depending on the amount that we have.
Okay, well, thank you. And I'm looking forward to seeing it go back to its normal level. And with that, I'd like to move approval of acceptance of donations 8.05.
Okay, so we have a motion by Mr. Buckman. Motion by Mr. Buckman, second by Mrs. Shepherd. Mrs. Dawson, is there anybody who would like to address the board on this item? Seeing no one. Mrs. Roger, Mrs. Shepherd, Dr. Eisendrath Rogers, Mr. Buckman. I see Mrs. Frame is absent. Ms. Dollar Drew.
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Motion carries 6-0 with one absent. That brings us to item number 9.01. We just did that. 9.02, advanced agenda. Okay, 10.01, reports by board members. Ms. Bilber Drew.
Yes, as I was discussing with Mr. Unger before, I wanted to just acknowledge the events that happened in Afghanistan today and just ask that everybody keep your thoughts on those people and their welfare. And myself, I will be keeping them in my prayers, that they will be able to escape and that they will be able to have fair treatment if they don't manage to escape.
Thank you very much. Anyone else?
Yes, please.
Mr. Buckman.
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, I was invited to attend a meeting with the trade associations in the county. There were other school board members there from other districts. 2 of our CTE teachers were there, and it was quite a robust discussion about interaction between the trades and the school districts, and it's something that's sort of been missing. And I'm excited about what the discussion could lead to. And I also got into the fair free, so I have to make that disclosure.
Okay. Anybody else? Dr. Eisendrath Rogers.
I attended a presentation by our very own foundation director, Christine Robertson. She made to the SLO Chamber of Commerce featuring our innovation lab at the Bishop's Peak Elementary School. And afterwards, I went over to Bishop's Peak and to see what that was about. And what I discovered that was about a kindergartner being better at coding than I am, which isn't saying much, mind you, but we were trying to create a mouse. I mean, we had a little mouse, I guess, but it was in the shape of a ball, and we were supposed to program it to move around this room. And I was completely undone by the other teacher who was there, who already knew how to do this. But I just wanted to bring that up as an example of the good work that our foundation is doing to raise funds for our various causes that we have in the district and our needs, and to living up to the name innovation, so it's about what we're looking at in the future. So just wanted to put that out there for anyone who might want to get more information about our foundation.
Cool, thank you. Anybody else? Well, there was a couple of things I'd like to share. First of all, I visited Baywood School on August 13th. And I just want to thank the staff, the office staff, Diane, Susanna, and new principal Bernardo Salcido for taking the time to just meet with me and share Baywood's opening plans. It's pretty exciting, and they're really excited there. So kudos to Baywood. And as I think Mrs. Frost said, we start school on Thursday, and I think the staffs are really, really excited. Also, I really wanted to thank the city of San Luis Obispo for their support during this meeting. And there's some people I would particularly like to thank. I'd like to thank Derek Johnson, the city manager. I'd like to thank Rick Scott, the chief of police. I'd like to thank Brian Amorosa, the SLO PD operations captain. I'd like to thank Dustin Alexander, the San Luis Obispo police resource officer for us. Were very supportive of us tonight, as they continue to be supportive, and I really appreciate the cooperation that we have between our city and our school district. We are quite, what would we say, I can't even say, but we are definitely working together for the same thing. So thank you very much to the city of San Luis Obispo. With that, I think it's time to adjourn. So thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.